This is where Cleveland fans turn to talk Cavs basketball. WKRK-FM and HD1 Cleveland Heights. The best playoff coverage in the CLE. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. In Odyssey Sports Station.
92.3 The Fan, 2020 Sports.
This 2020 Sports brought to you by Smiley One Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, and Bryant, Cleveland's premier heating and cooling service providers. Cavaliers have some new life after winning Game 3 against Detroit on Saturday, 116-109. The Pistons, very physical team. At practice on Sunday, head coach Kenny Atkinson, how he thinks his team's been handling all that stuff from Detroit.
Okay, but we have to do better. I hate to keep, bringing up that possession game stat, right? But like I said, it's not sustainable, especially the rebounding. So I'd say okay, but we got to do better.
Cavs continue their series against Detroit tonight at Rocket Arena. Again, the Cavs trail the series 2-1 after topping the Pistons on Saturday afternoon. In the NBA playoffs on Sunday in the East, Knicks beat up on Philadelphia 144-114. Miles McBride, 25 points, 7-9 from three-point range. Knicks sweep the series in 4 games. New York tied the NBA postseason record with 25 three-pointers. Knicks advance the Eastern Conference Finals for the second straight season. In the Western Conference semifinals on Sunday, Minnesota knocking off San Antonio 114-109. Anthony Edwards, 16 of his 36 points in the fourth quarter. That series tied at 2 games apiece. San Antonio's Victor Wembanyama got ejected early in the second quarter after throwing an elbow. Guardians lose to the Twins 5-4. Gavin Williams giving up 5 runs on 10 hits in 6 innings. Guardians dropped 2 of 3 to Minnesota. In the loss, Chase Slaughter, pair of hits, including an RBI single, drove in 2. Brian Rocchio, Ford scored twice in his Guardians debut. Catcher Patrick Bailey went 0 for 3. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next, time for the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
Catch Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin live on YouTube each and every weekday from 2 to 7 p.m.
Tonight we're gonna take no prisoners.
The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
Oh, it's engulfed. Strus the steal. And the finish. The cookies from Max Strus. 30 seconds left. Harden dancing on Harris. Harden step back 3. Splash.
All right, James, you've been in the league for a long time. How did you silence the chatter tonight and have this sort of response in Game 3?
What chatter? What chatter? I play basketball, and whatever this team needs me to do, I'm gonna go out there and do it. So letting the game play out. Fourth quarter, my number was called, and I go to work. But they made a run, up 17. We've seen it before. Stay composed and win the game, and that's what we did.
This is Cleveland Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
A chance to even up the series tonight, and then could be a whole new ball game. Anthony Lima, Daryl Ryder in for the final time before Ken returns from his big trip yesterday.
Do we know officially if they're letting him off the boat?
Yeah, I think he's off the boat. I think he's back in town. I believe he is. So Ken told me, he texted me yesterday, he'd be listening very intently, because you know how it is, this show. Looking for every edge, because, Ken wants to prove himself. And it's good that he'll have the opportunity to do that. Anyway, Daryl and take Chris Fedor will join us at 9 o'clock. I had a lengthy conversation with Chris at the basketball game on Saturday, which was just pandemonium. The Cavs, they built up this lead. They look like a different team. People were starting to believe again, and then it came crashing down immediately as they blew a 17-point lead. And then it was the Max Strus and James Harden show. Of all people, in the fourth quarter, Donovan's, the rest of his game was spectacular. He looked like he was rejuvenated. And then he handed it off to, the other guys to bring it home, and they did. So 116-109, the final score. James made 3 of his vintage signature moves. And my question is, was it a stay of execution, Daryl, when you were watching that? Do you think that was sustainable? Or do you think ultimately things are pointing in the opposite direction for a game like tonight, a late one tonight?
Well, look, they got a stay of execution on Saturday, right? Had they lost that, we're doing a funeral this morning. So if they can win tonight and tie this series, reset everything, they'll be fine. But, James Harden still early in the game, sloppy handling the basketball. I don't know how much the hand is affecting some of these turnovers we're seeing.
His handle looked fine in the fourth.
Yes, it did.
They could not take the ball from him later in that game. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we saw in I'd say the final 4 minutes of that game, Anthony, is exactly why the Cavaliers made that trade. That, I think, was the first time this postseason where we really saw the dividends. Because Harden has struggled taking care of the basketball and struggled a little bit offensively. The Cavs as a team have struggled a little bit shooting the three-pointer, which is a little concerning to me. And Kenny Atkinson had said something before Game 3 on Saturday that caught my attention about the physicality. And, hey, they're trying to wear us down. We're trying to wear them down. And when you're worn down, that typically leads to lower shooting percentage. You're not as effective shooting the three ball. So, and I don't want to put words in Kenny's mouth, but I read that as we're getting worn down a little bit, and the three-point shooting is down as a result of it, and we have to find other areas to compensate for that. Because he also made it very clear they can't win this series just jacking threes. That's just not going to happen. Also, by the way, Detroit is not going to win this series trying to outshoot the Cavaliers. Okay? So I think there's a couple of different dynamics, but this is the ebbs and flows of a playoff series. We've seen this with Detroit before, where the Cavs fall down 0-2 in a 7-game series. They roar back, and they either win in 6 or 7 games. Hopefully, this is a repeat of that. I liked, for the most part, everything I saw Saturday from the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell, at times, tried to play some defense. James Harden, at times, tried to play some defense. So I really liked at times what I saw from the Cavs, even that third quarter, where they blew the tire, right? They blew the lead. All of a sudden, it's a new game and all that. The looks that they were getting and missing were good looks. They weren't forcing anything. And so you have
I thought the ball moved better than it had in a while.
Like, you have to chalk that up to that's basketball.
I mean, in the fourth quarter, obviously, it's late in the fourth. Anybody that understands how the NBA works, it's not really about ball movement late in the fourth.
Right.
You do win close games to gut things out. You do have to there is a level of shot making,
yes.
right? You saw Cade Cunningham do that. Cade had Max Strus on him and drove right by him for a dunk, and then, Max Strus is going to take a step back, ready for me to drive. I'll just bury a top of the key three.
Yeah.
No problem, no questions asked. And so late in the game, it is a bunch of standing around and watching the guys do it at the highest. I saw a lot of people asking the question afterwards, do you trust James Harden now? And I'm like, man, I don't understand why we're in a position to have to trust him to this extent.
Well,
how is it with the most expensive roster in the NBA? Does James, after those 2 games that he started the series, he played 40 minutes on Saturday?
Yeah.
He has more minutes in the playoffs than Donovan Mitchell right now. I never, in all my pleas to make that, after they made the trade, to tell people that this was a good trade, that this made sense, that he was a clear playoff upgrade over Darius Garland.
Yes, because he'd actually be on the floor playing.
Well, not only that, but he's actually had monster playoff games where Darius has had few and far between, and much more reliable in terms of rebounding, and actually does, believe it or not that he's a great defender, but, he gets some steals, he gets blocks that Darius never gets. So he's an upgrade on offense and defense, and obviously the experience, and he's available. What I wasn't arguing for was that he would replace Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley as the go-to guy on the team. And at times in the playoffs,
mean down the stretch?
At times he's played more minutes than Donovan Mitchell. They trust James Harden more than anybody else, and to that I'm a little surprised.
Well,
I did not expect that.
I do have a confession. Is I was watching that final 90 seconds, the two dribble drives to the basket for Harden. I didn't trust him when he took that three with 30.
Why would you?
When he took that 3-pointer with 30 seconds to go, I didn't trust him.
I was there, Daryl. I was petrified
until it went through the net. I didn't trust him.
I didn't mind the shot. I was worried he was going to fall down.
Yeah,
on the dribbles, right?
But
that's what we'd seen in game 2.
Have his crossover taken.
Yeah,
I was real nervous, but I do get it. I talked about this yesterday on my show. The hardest thing in sports sometimes is to stick with it when it's not going well. And Kenny Atkinson's sticking with it. 3-point shooting isn't falling. They're sticking with it. James Harden's turning the ball over, dribbling it off his feet, whatever. They're sticking with him. Like, the hardest thing to do is to stick with the plan when it's not going well. The easy thing to do is to pivot and make changes, which, by the way, this time of year, understandable because there's a sense of urgency. And that game Saturday was really the first time I felt this team had a sense of urgency. Like, it took you to being down 0-2 in this series before the light bulb went off. You realized your season was flashing in front of your eyes. Kenny Atkinson finally got the memo that, hey, I can't play Donovan Mitchell 34 minutes like I do in the regular season in the playoffs. I can't play Evan Mobley regular season minutes in the play. You have to extend the minutes of your star players. I kind of feel like just like looking around the league, Anthony, the Cavs are the only team trying to play their starters regular season minutes in the playoffs. They're doing load management. And I'm like, and I had said this in the Toronto series. I criticized this. And they got away with it in that series. Not going to get away with it in this one. So I do like the fact that Kenny got the memo, extended the minutes a little bit. Both Harden and Mitchell probably need to be in that 38, 39, 40-minute window. I would argue if he's out of foul trouble, same thing with Evan Mobley. He needs to be in that time frame as well. But
I thought Evan was sensational on defense. I know so much of his offensive game is under the microscope, but he looked to me to be every part. And I know he only had the one rebound in game 2. Yeah. And I brought it up. Everybody brought it up. I mean, one rebound for a center. And people have gone back at the film and they said, well, actually, he's creating rebounds for other people.
Kenny and the teammates addressed that. They said, hey, yeah, he's not getting the rebounds. But look, Donovan Mitchell got 10 rebounds on Saturday. The guards are picking it up because Evan is picking up the Pistons bigs and trying to get them away from the basket so that the guards can swoop in and grab the rebounds. And okay, I'll hear that to a degree, but I also understand those that are like looking at that box score and they see one rebound from it. You know, it was kind of fun. He had 8 of them on Saturday, and I either posted it on X or I made the crack when he got his first rebound, and then he got his second one, and I said, hey, look, Evan Mobley has doubled his rebounding total from game 2 in the first quarter. You know, being a little sarcastic and facetious about it, but I get the criticism, but I understand Kenny Atkinson's explanation. If the supporting cast is picking up the rebounding slack, it's okay. The problem is, they're losing the possession game. The possession
they got annihilated on the offensive glass in that game. Yeah,
they're losing that possession game, which is a very important metric for Atkinson and the Cavaliers. That's not good. And yeah, you are when you're getting beat on the glass. The one rebound thing for Evan isn't acceptable, but he was fantastic. I thought Saturday afternoon. I love what I saw from him, especially as you said on the defensive end of the floor. We got to see a little of that defensive player of the year.
Well, they'd love him, Dale. They would love him to guard Cade Cunningham. The problem is they can't, because if he's on Cade Cunningham, then what does that mean, underneath? Because he has done a terrific job, underneath when it comes to that. But, he's got to cover up for Donovan. He's got to cover up for James Harden. Max Strus's energy is incredible. We'll hear from Max next segment because, do they win the game unless he just steals that inbounds pass? He forced another bad inbounds pass. He does all those little things. He's supercharged the little things, too.
He's the supercharged version of Matthew Dellavedova.
Well, it's been awesome.
To me, he's kind of like a mashup of Delly and Andy Varejao, and I'm just trying to think of some of the other really good Cavalier energy guys, disruptor guys that get under the opponent's skin.
Yeah, it feels like the other teams have so many more of those guys than we have.
Yeah, you need that guy that just annoys the you-know-what out of your opponent. Like, when you're playing against him, you hate him, right? But when he's on your team, you love him. That's Max Strus for the Cavaliers.
He's been awesome at doing all those little things. Like, on the possession-by-possession basis, he can't really hang with a lot of the perimeter players in this league, but when it counted, holy cow. But that's all I'm saying is Evan can't guard all these guys, and he can't always even be the last line of defense because it all depends on, the actions that he's going up against. But rewatching a lot of that game, and Evan's defensive prowess was on display. And he does not get even. I know he was Defensive Player of the Year coming into the year. All I've heard this year is, that was such a one-off. The only reason he won it was a fluke, was because Wemby was injured.
I've said that.
Fine. He's still a really good defensive player.
I'm not taking that away from him. But I also feel like the only reason he won that award was because Wemby was hurt.
Well, either way, I was, in attendance for that game on Saturday. It finally felt like a sigh of relief. It also felt like, oh, we have a team that can even build a 17-point lead. I hadn't seen it. Like, honestly, outside of that run in Game 7, right before the first half and into the second half, when have we seen the Cavs play really good basketball in these playoffs?
Well, we've been spoiled, too. Like, I really feel like that LeBron 2.0 from 14 to 18, and just the ease with which he just mopped the floor with the Eastern Conference in the playoffs, the 4-game sweeps, the gentleman sweeps, right? Very rarely did they get to a 6th or a 7th game. I know the Pacers, they had a 7th game against them and knocked out Indiana, but like LeBron and that group made the playoffs look so easy. I almost feel like that's why Cavs fan is struggling right now with this team, and
because none of it's going to be easy.
Right. This is how the playoffs go. It's tough to win on the road. Like, you're going to have the ebbs and flows. You're going to be really good at home. You're not going to be so good on the road. You're going to have the role players step up, and it's not going to be the same guy every game. Like, this is how she goes. So I think we got a little spoiled. Got to get readjusted to how the NBA playoffs really go.
Yeah, well, it is one team that's making it look easy, the New York Knicks. Holy cow, as they took care of Young John's Philadelphia 76ers. We'll have more of that later coming up in Lima Likes, because they're just going to be sitting and waiting for the winner of this second-round matchup between the Cavs and the Pistons. Want to hear from the fans, 216-474-0092. I was as down as could possibly be on Friday. Is there a glimmer? Is there some hope? And I want to hear from the fans on that as well. Plus, we'll hear from Max Strus. There was a Guardians trade that went down. Very unorthodox for them to make a deal like that. We'll get to that in about 23 minutes. And that Lima Likes was Chris Fedor at 9 o'clock. A loaded show for you today on a Monday. Kenny returns tomorrow. Daryl is in for him right here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Sofa sectionals. plumbing and electrical needs. Or visit TriCountyElectricService.com.
This is where Cleveland fans turn to talk Cavs basketball. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Oh, it's engulfed. Strus the steal. And the finish. The cookies from Max Strus. A massive play from Mad Max. 2-point Cleveland lead.
Audio courtesy of Peacock. Extraordinary turn of events. The improbability of Strus, A, being able to time that, B, grab it, and then C, take it all the way in, and D, finish. For all of that to happen, and at that time, how much time was left in a game? It was bonkers.
Like 2:30.
It was absolutely bonkers. I just sat there in disbelief, and it was... Maybe you'd call that the biggest reason they won the game. You could also obviously, reference the Harden scoring as well. But do they even get to that spot? And how different are the dimensions of the game if that doesn't happen? Because it's a big difference from playing with a 4-point lead, a 2-point lead, or when you're even or down.
Well, we're used to watching that happen to the Cavs on inbounds plays. So it was a nice...
We've turned the ball over a ton.
176 times, if my math is correct.
Excuse me?
Yeah. 176 times.
In what? This series?
Postseason.
I sat there and I could not believe at that moment, especially considering who was inbounding the ball.
Yes, I'm checking because I wrote it on the box score. Yeah, 100. They entered with 161 turnovers in the playoffs Saturday, plus 15. Owen, check my math here. That does equal 176, does it not?
I just got a new calculator, but yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Me and math do not go well
Yeah, I mean,
together.
they've evened up the last two games. They've evened up the turnovers. And Cade Cunningham, and who I did say at the start of the series, is very susceptible to coughing it up. He had 8 turnovers in that game. Now, obviously, Cade's able to make up for it a lot with just how easy he can score and create for the other guys. But there is a chance. Part of the math of this series, like we just assumed, all right, Harden's already worn down after 2 games when I said it's over. They're not going to win, 4 or 5 games.
We prisoner of the moment coming off the road.
Okay, it's moment 2 days later. I'm still not necessarily saying the Cavs are going to come back and win the series, but at least it gave them a shot. But part of the math of them being able to come back in this series is for guys like Cade Cunningham and his usage, Tobias Harris at his age with his usage, for them also to wear down. Because we've talked so much about Harden and Mitchell wearing down. Okay, I'll tell you, like Cade is, I know he made it look easy in the last 2 minutes, but he is also going to be potentially worn down because he's had to put the whole team on his back. And Tobias Harris is he's having an unbelievable playoffs, but he added another 38 minutes. When is his regression to the mean going to happen? So all I'm trying to do is conjure up a way that the Cavs can do it. But, of course, none of it matters unless they win tonight.
No, and Saturday was also the first time in the series where they won the points off turnover battle as well. Because it's not just the turnovers that have been a problem for the Cavaliers, and this goes back to the Toronto series as well. It's the fact that they're giving up tremendous scoring off those turnovers as well. So they finally flipped that script, and they won that battle. They got 27 points off Piston turnovers, 15 of them, while limiting Detroit to 19 points off your 15 turnovers. So the turnovers finally were a wash, no advantage for anybody, but the Cavaliers actually had the scoring advantage off of them. The rebounding's a problem still. You can't keep getting out-rebounded, especially on the defensive end of things. You can't allow the Pistons to keep getting these second and third offensive opportunities.
17-5 was the offensive rebounding edge that Detroit had, and it felt like 100-5.
Yeah, and it felt like every time the ball came off the rim, Detroit was resetting their offense all over again. And the Cavaliers also, too, I think they need to lower the empty possessions. There are too many empty possessions for the Cavs in these first 3 games where they've got scoring opportunities and they're blowing it, either with a quick shot, even if it's open, or going to the basket and not finishing at the rim, but like just too many empty possessions. So they need to cut that down too. After seeing Saturday's game, I'm more optimistic than I was.
About what? Optimistic?
Of their ability to come back and win this series.
The whole series? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Now, going into Saturday's game, no, I was not optimistic at all. I was extremely cynical. I was writing the eulogy. Like when they blew the 17-point lead, I started doing, okay, how many let them knows can we let them know our season is over? Let them know we blew it again in the second round of the playoffs. Let them know we're gonna have to blow the team up. Let them know Kenny Atkinson's getting fired. Like I was just going through and just writing the eulogy of them being down 0-3.
They're gonna have to win. They lost the possession battle in this game. That's part of the reason that the rebounding disparity, right? Yeah. I mean, they're getting to take way more shots than the Cavs are. Kenny brought it up in the post game on the possession battles. Here's Kenny after the game.
That's a little lucky on our part. We can't have, and rebounding's a big part of the possession game. So our big guys are down there wrestling with their big guys. Donovan had 10 rebounds, right? Like, that's what we need. He did it last year in the Indiana series. He's got to do it all. Guard's got to rebound. James has got to rebound. Max has got to rebound. Those guys, they have such great big guys that offensive rebound. It's going to be a guard rebounding emphasis because we can't have another game where we're losing a possession game by 14. It's not sustainable.
A big part of that.
By the way, that's like I think the third time this postseason I've heard him say something like that.
Which is
about the possession game and losing it, and they can't. It's not sustainable, and they can't keep doing this expecting they're going to win games.
Yeah, game 2 comes to mind because it felt like we were in the wrong positions every single time. Sometimes on the offensive glass, it's going to be just luck, right? Like, of course, on the airball 3, it goes right to their guy. Like, that's stuff you can't plan for. In
you
game
can't
2,
lose a rebound off a missed free throw, though.
Right. And there's
that's an effort. That's a boxing out. That's fundamentals. And how many times have we seen that in the postseason?
Evan's been victimized by those. Here and there.
Those drive me nuts.
I'll just say this: in 216-474-0092, and coming up next segment, we actually have a baseball trade. We'll talk about how significant it was because on paper we traded for that guy and that bat.
And gave up that to do it?
Yeah, well, I'll explain when we come back after the break. But just focusing on, what I was feeling like. Because a lot of this is emotions, right? I'm sure you probably thought, Lima was at the game. He's been saying so much about James Harden. James Harden makes those shots. Lima's going to come back and flip-flop on the series. Okay, honestly, I didn't. I thought to myself, man, that was awesome. It was great to see him wake up vintage James Harden.
Tonight?
I'm not going tonight. No, I will not be there tonight.
It's kind of hoping that
I think part of it is how late it's going to start.
More of the James Harden. I'm going to show Lima.
Well, hey,
I'm going to show that Lima guy.
I was ecstatic to see it, but I also gave it like a day, slept on it, and I'm like, James Harden played 40 minutes, and the ball was in his hands the entire crunch time. Do we think that's a recipe for success?
Well, how about this, Donovan Mitchell?
Does anybody? Am I crazy here?
No, I'm worried about that. I mean, but it seems that the ball's going to be in his hands in crunch time until this season is over. So they're not going to move away from that.
Daryl, I'm coming back to this. How in the world do you come into a season with the most expensive roster? You trade for 37-year-old James Harden, and the whole team, the ball has been handed to him with the season on the line.
Well,
how did that happen?
Lost in this is Donovan scored 35.
Well, he looked more like superstar,
right?
Donovan.
Yeah, he was 13 and 24 from the field. Now, three-point shot wasn't as clean as we're used to seeing from him, but he scored 35, but deferred to James Harden in the final 2 minutes. That's not the first time Donovan Mitchell's deferred late in a basketball game this postseason.
Well, so I want to listen. I would love to do, hey, I told you so, and point to the afternoon show and yell at Nick and say, did you watch that? That's not how I feel today. I got to be honest. I still need to see, more of a complete. You
need to see 11 more of these things.
Well, they built up a 17-point lead. That was awesome, and I was like, all right, this is a little more like it. Finally, I get to see my team look like a more polished, urgent, talented team. But then how quickly that got wiped off the board, I'm like, has anything changed at all?
They need to play tonight with a sense of urgency from the opening tip. The slow starts, that's another thing that's killing them? Can you sit Dean Wade and put Strus back into the starting lineup now? Now, granted, Dean played less than 17 minutes on Saturday, okay? Right. And I always argue it's not about who starts, even though that's a great conversation to have, and we always talk about who's starting, who should start. But the Cavs, they've been starting slow. They need to bring the energy tonight. They need to jump out in front from the opening tip, and they need to have their foot on the Pistons' throat the whole night. Not a breath of fresh air, not a scintilla of hope for the Pistons tonight. The Cavs just need to absolutely bludgeon them tonight. That's what has to happen. Granted, okay, just score one more point than them. We're all good. But you understand what I'm saying. Like, they got to come out from the opening tip, jump on them, give yourself an early cushion, maintain that cushion, make life easier on yourself. Make life easier on all of us.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I don't think Cleveland fan can take these, heart-pounding, nail-biting playoff games with, as you put it, the most expensive roster in the NBA.
All right, 216-474-0092. When we come back, we will switch to some baseball. The Guardians, they never do this. They make a significant trade, and for that bat, why this actually might make some sense. Plus, they did drop 2 out of 3 against their division rival. We'll get to more of what we liked out of this weekend, what we didn't like, coming up in Lima Likes, like the NBA just totally butchering the lottery and the coverage. That and so much more. Your backup quarterback with a significant community move once again. I thought this was pretty cool. That's all straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Make the right. near the intersection of Route 224, keeping it local since 1937.
When you want the latest on the Cavs, we're the station you turn to first. 92.3 The Fan is Cleveland's home for breaking sports news. Your teams, your station.
At some point, we have to get to Daryl's personal commentary on the traffic on Saturday, because I got out of town. I had to escape after the game, so I have my little ways to get out of town, and even that was a little bit of hard work, but still got home in like 28 minutes.
Good for you.
Which is pretty good. Well, I thought, it
took me an hour just to go around one block.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. We'll see. Is that on Daryl or is that on the city of Cleveland?
All I know is that there were a lot of traffic cops just standing around
I was
by their cars.
coming into town after the game.
Yeah.
And yes, there was. We came from underneath downtown and came up, and it was pretty bad.
Even that move.
Yeah.
So that's a vet move, right?
Right.
All right, we'll get to that a little bit later on because I saw Daryl going off on social media. I warned you, Daryl. I told everybody, Saturday, just buckle up. Just get ready. It's going to be a nightmare.
It was.
And it seems like, for once, one of my predictions come true. It's the easiest prediction of all time to make.
Goalie washer during the whole thing, too.
Yes. And was there a Pokemon convention?
I couldn't tell you, probably. There was everything in town this weekend, so yes, probably.
All right. Is that going to become a thing of the past with the move to Brook Park?
Yes, it will, because there's like 3 freeways around the Brook Park site.
All right, maybe we'll do that at 7:20. Meanwhile, Guardians made a move. Now I know the story. They lost 2 or 3 over the weekend. They're back to 500. It's kind of where they've been, playing this uneven, inconsistent baseball and still just trying to figure out, like, the starters are going about 5 innings and turn it over to the bullpen. And a lot of these close games, right? So they lose 2 out of 3 against a division rival. But that wasn't the story. The story of the weekend was that they actually made a trade. And normally the Guardians, to me, it's a bit out of character because they want to see things through. They can't really make the mistake of bailing on somebody too quickly, but they had clearly seen enough when it came to Bo Naylor.
Yeah, that was my initial takeaway, was like, they have bailed on Bo. And not only is Bo going to AAA, he's actually going to Arizona first to develop the developmental program in Arizona.
Holy cow.
So the fact that they trade for a 2-time Gold Glove catcher.
Yeah, they traded for catcher Patrick Bailey. The Giants getting the 29th pick, so it's one of the picks you actually can trade.
Yes.
In Major League Baseball.
But like Bo Naylor and Austin Hedges, Bailey's going to fit in well here because he can't hit his weight either.
So, right, he's getting booed in his town in San Francisco when he plays. The fans have been pretty brutal to him. Also, by the way, we gave up left-handed pitching prospect Matt Wilkinson. You probably don't know him by the name Matt Wilkinson.
No.
You know him by the name Tugboat.
Yes.
And he's one of the really interesting guys I think fans were very excited about. And that's part of the surprise here is not just that they bailed on a player, at this time so early in the year. It's that they bailed on a lefty pitching prospect. Like, that to me was the stunner. Now, it depends on who you talk to, on who was higher on him. I surveyed the landscape of the people that know this way infinitely better than I do on this stuff, and you could not find a consensus on how people felt about Wilkinson, so maybe that's part of the story here on the trade. But overall, Daryl, what did you make of this move?
That they're going to move on from Bo Naylor. The fact that they gave up the draft pick, that's very anti-Guardians. The fact that they are replacing a player who was supposed to be a core piece of this team going forward, right, in Bo. Like, Bo was supposed to be the next Sandy Alomar for them. And I know that's a somewhat unfair comparison, but, that's the only comparison that, I can really...
I remember that being made. Absolutely. People did say that.
That's how highly they thought of him. So the fact that They have pulled the ripcord, hit the eject button, and moved on. I got to read this line from the press release. This is actually pretty funny. In breaking down like his offensive things, quote, he has hit into some tough luck to start the 2026 campaign, batting 146, 12 for 82 in 30 games with an XBA asterisk of 226. So I did chuckle when I saw he has hit into some tough luck to start the 2026 campaign.
Hey, nothing you can do about that, right? Sometimes the baseball gods, the seam head gods,
but he's in 146.
Not in your favor. It was dreadful.
You know what? He'll fit in very well in that catching group.
Yeah. So just overall, like the catching thing is so hard. It's so hard for like the average fan to understand how significant catching is.
You know what
in
I
a
think
battery.
Part of this has to do with too? To help the pitchers.
Well, that's right. I think
I think this is more, to be fair, about like the whole situation. I think this has to do more about having a everyday catcher that can help your pitchers. He's got an excellent frame rate. I saw a graphic, and it was like the strike zone, and it was pitches that he framed as strikes that with the
technology,
with the technology were not actually strikes, but they were called strikes and they weren't challenged. Like, he's excellent at framing pitches. So he's going to be able to help.
A skill that's become more important than ever before.
Absolutely. And, with the limited challenge system and all that. So, yeah, that's critical. So
it's a skill that means nothing if they just go to 100% robot umps.
Right.
But right? Isn't that kind of interesting that if they just ever make the move and go like a non-existent umpire to begin with?
I thought I saw Jeff Passan. I think it was Jeff Passan that mentioned that the umpires are being graded like as the game's going to help them with their strike zones. Like there's something where like they know if they're getting calls right or wrong.
Like someone's whispering in their ear and going, "You missed it. You got it right."
Yeah, like
we have that. His name is Keith Britton, and I'll get the text halfway through his segment. This one's not going well. Let's move on.
I'm expecting one shortly.
Imagine that.
Inside. That's some inside baseball.
That should become a bit where Keith does the whisper, where he does quite literally get it, and it just happens to go out over the air so everybody can hear it as well. That would be amazing. Ken would deal with that very well.
That's not the point.
Anyway, Daryl. Yes, the framing. Get back to your framing of the pitches.
Frame the segment up.
Yeah.
To frame the issue, I think that's what this comes down to, is to bring in a guy that's going to help these pitchers. The bullpen's been a disaster early in the season, right? They've had some success with the starting pitching, but you're in a spot now where the formula you were talking about, right? Just get the starter through 5, turn it over to the bully, you're good to go. Now it's, no, we need these starters to go into the 7th inning. And so if he can help them, then yeah. But I do think it has to do more with the pitching staff and the handling of the pitching staff than it does the hitting.
Yeah, there's not a lot of round numbers you can point to say that this is going to be a dramatic improvement, but those are the things that...
Didn't he have a pass ball yesterday too, by the way?
Of course.
The first run was that. And then they left Gavin out there too long.
Yeah.
It was a whole deal. I said with the season ticket holders yesterday, though, I was in the area where everyone hugs everyone for like 5 rows.
Yeah.
They were all not very happy about the pass ball that scored the first run.
You know what? That is...
On the guy that's the 2-time Gold Glover.
I mean this with love, but that is like a quintessential Guardians development.
Mm.
You trade for a 2-time Gold Glover, and the first run he allows is off a pass ball. And the whole reason you made the trade is for defense. Mm. There's nothing more Guardians than that.
Little patience.
Might have been scored a wild pitch. I'm not sure.
A little patience.
It wasn't great.
Would help. All right, 216-474-0092. We'll get back to the wine and gold. A pretty big game tonight. It's only their season on the line. Can they do this? Can they come back and really, we know about history being made. This would be a very different type of history, but can they depend on anybody else but the beard in the final moments of a playoff game? I want to take the temperature of Cavs fans before Game 4 tonight. All straight ahead. Plus, Lima Likes 745. Chris Fedor at 9 o'clock. with the latest. We were wondering if he'd be writing the obituary on the Cavs season, but they're still alive. But for how much longer? That's all coming up next on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
just looking at kind of what they're saying, and it's like they still feel like they have control of this series. They said it, right? We're good. We're playing good basketball. So we got to turn that narrative. So we've turned it a little to really make this where they're a little like more aware of our threat. We got to go get this one.
Well, I wondered about the level of the fan base, whether there's a belief there after winning Game 3 at home, a game you coughed up a 17-point lead and then needed some vintage moments from the beard to get back in. And I haven't really been sensing a ton of belief from around the city. And then listening to Kenny Atkinson, does he believe it? Feels like the team's got to show him a lot more, too, based on that clip. Anthony Lima, Daryl Ryder is in for Ken Carman. Coming up in 20 minutes, some sound from Brown's rookie minicamp on the role they're carving out for Taylen Green that you might find very interesting. So, Daryl, Kenny is like pleading for the team to change this narrative. I'd argue also he can be a part of the change as well that he wants to see. What do you think after seeing Game 3 and the Cavaliers get their first victory of the series?
Well, he realizes what I think all of us realize. They were fortunate to come away with that. They did not play as well as they need to if they're going to finish this series comeback. Too many turnovers still. Losing the possession battle. Losing on the glass the way they have. Like, he knows. So I think this is his, because he's never, and understandably so, he's never going to come out and rip players. But what he is going to do is, I think this is his way of telling his guys, hey, I hope y'all not riding high after that win on Saturday. Because if you are, Monday night's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. So I think that's Kenny's way, like a motivational way for Kenny, sending him a little bit of a message there. And also, too, pretty honest assessment of the reality of the situation that they're in. They've not played well this series. Saturday, they played well in stretches. Like you said, they built a 17-point lead, couldn't hang on to it. They needed Max Strus to come up with that incredible steal with 2.5 minutes to go. And they needed James Harden to magically pull 7 points out of his hat, or out of his beard in this case, in the last 90 seconds of the game.
He was trampled by Tobias Harris on that three-pointer. And the 2-minute report came out, and they said,
no errors.
No foul. And I'm like, I've not seen a closeout of 7 feet where a shooter ends up on the ground where they don't call that a foul, which was pretty crazy.
Well, and especially because James has perfected the and one from beyond the arc in his career.
I think that worked against him,
right?
In that case,
I think so.
Like
too.
He has a history with so many of these officials. Like they're like, we're not giving you anything.
Yeah, like how many times does he go? He misses the three, but he gets to go to the line and shoot three, right?
It's just at home you don't get that call, and that to me was pretty crazy.
Yeah, but are you really going to call a potential 4-point play at that point?
When the guy gets trampled from 7 feet away on a closeout, a terrible closeout, yes, that's when you call it. They actually called one earlier in the game, too, where he got hit on the arm.
I almost
in
thought
the corner it was a 4-point play.
I got to be honest with you. Early in the game, Scott Foster, I think, was the lead official or whatever. It was his crew. Where the Cavs got up 17 and just seeing how the whistles were going. I'm like, Scott Foster understood the assignment tonight, with just how...
To extend the series?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Because... they're going to need some extensions. Maybe that works for us. The way this second round has gone in the NBA, because it's been a yawner from the league perspective on what we've seen in the second round.
The officials tonight are, because I hope it's not the Tony Brothers crew. I hope we don't. Well,
you think that'll work against us now? Because the NBA needs to figure out a way for this series to go 7.
Tony's getting a little grumpy in the playoffs these days.
A little bit. Overall, and Daryl is it for Ken Carman today. Listen, I wanted to leave the building and go nuts and be a homer and do the Ken Carman chants.
See, this is why you're not sold today. This is why you're in the mood you are, because you couldn't leave the game early on Saturday. I think that's what this all comes down to.
Yeah, they were up 17. I could have beat the traffic.
You couldn't beat the traffic out. You couldn't leave the building early. The Cavs made you wait around and sweat it out. That's why you feel the way you do today.
Look, I was wondering when the Cavs would kind of have those moments where your superstars, quote superstars, and Hall of Famers come through down the stretch. And it's just that it was James Harden. And I don't know. I don't know how much that can be relied upon. As much as I wanted the Harden trade, thought, and I think I had been proven right that he was an upgrade over Darius, although the first 2 games of this series, I think either of them on the bench, Darius or James, for those games, we'd have won one of them. That's how bad James was turning the ball over and couldn't get out of his own way. And then...
Does that include Darius in street close?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Which is where he might have been had he have been on the Cavs roster. But watching James' final 2 minutes, it was awesome. I don't know that it was some big validation for him to be relied upon. That's what I'm getting at. And so I had mixed emotions when I really stopped and thought about that game yesterday, because why is it that they're relying on him from a usage standpoint, from a clutch standpoint, and from a 40 minutes standpoint on that roster?
Well, it feels like there's a little bit of a trend late in games right now. We had this in the Toronto series where Donovan deferred to, I think it was Schroeder was going off in the fourth quarter, had like 11 of his 19 points. It came in the fourth quarter of a win over Toronto. And they wanted to put Donovan back in. Atkinson wanted to put him back in. He's like, yeah, these guys are running. Let it go for a minute. Saturday, Donovan is having a Donovan Mitchell virtuoso offensive performance, and late in the game, he turned it over to James Harden. Now, he was specifically asked after the game on Saturday about that, and he's like, because he's James. Like, why did you defer in the final 2 minutes of the game? Well, he's James Harden.
Yeah, but James Harden in year 17, 36-year-old James Harden. Like, that just boggles my mind that...
Yeah, but they don't seem to see him as 36-year-old James Harden. They see him as future Hall of Famer, top 10 player in the NBA all-time, scorer anyway, James Harden. And that's the message they keep giving us, right? But he hasn't lived up to that until Game 3 the other night.
Even before...
Or afternoon, on Saturday. Like, I don't know. I don't understand why they keep deferring to him. It worked out this time. I agree with you. I think if they keep deferring to him, it's going to end up biting him in the ass.
I don't think that's a recipe for them. To me, that was never going to be a recipe for them making the long run.
To Owen's point, though, even before Game 3, Atkinson was on a heater in his press conference. Like, he had the truth serum going for everything except when he was asked about James Harden's struggles. And that what Owen just said was the message that Kenny delivered. Like, because Harden, at that point, had been terrible. He was the primary reason they're down 2-0 going into that game, their season on the line, okay, because it's Harden that pushed them to the edge of the cliff. And Atkinson sitting there like, oh, yeah, future Hall of Famer. He's a top 10 player of all time, yada, yada, yada. He's great. He's playing well.
Past tense.
Yeah.
Past tense. Not present. And look, I think he was a major contributor in the Toronto series. I know so much was talked about his turnovers. I thought he made up for him in that series. I thought you could make the argument James was their best player from start to finish.
Well, I think
in the Toronto series.
We'd rather him say it, but they can't come out and do it. But the real message is, well, we traded for him at the trade deadline. This was our upgrade, so we have to do it. We have to put him out there. Like, it's okay for him to not be the finisher, for him to come in and do James Harden things in the middle of the game. Once again, I think they got lucky on Saturday. I don't think they figured it out. I think they got lucky with James Harden. And I'm worried that luck's going to run out, especially when they go back to Detroit.
Well, and do you think those shots are going to fall if they are put in the exact same spot coming up tonight?
I don't worry about his shooting. I worry about his ball handling. I worry about his decision making.
He dribbles too much. Too much dribbling.
Well, that's what the guys, the haters, the out-of-town haters of him that told us we were going to rue this trade, that's what they've always said about him, is that his dribbling and all of that, and or that he's an iso ball player and things like that.
Well, what I loved, Owen, about when we traded for him and what I had seen, and I know it was regular season basketball, but what I had seen was a guy that was determined to get the bigs involved, was moving the ball. It wasn't sticking. It wasn't heliocentric James Harden. And in the playoffs, it almost has had to be that, because who else are you throwing the ball to that could create?
Well, and it became the oh, this is going to be a different Jared Allen in the playoffs, once that comes, from what we saw in the regular season. And with the exception of Game 7, it's been the same Jared Allen for the other, 9 games that they played so far.
Now, I thought Jared was big during moments going right at Duran, going right at Beef Stew. I thought Jared, he had 18 points, and he was really battling down there. But again, you're not just...
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying it's the same thing that we've had. If we want... And we've seen the same thing for 4 years now, and we've seen second-round exits now, and we've seen 4-1 gentlemen sweeps, and we're still in that spot. Until that changes, I don't know that I can change my level of confidence in the team.
Here's the problem. Harden's not supposed to be the finisher. Your two finishers are supposed to be Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell, and you've not seen any of that the entire playoffs. So you're 10 games in. You've not seen Donovan finish off a game, and you've not seen Evan finish off a game. And those are the two guys that are supposed to be doing it. You're almost grateful and thankful that Harden finished off Game 3.
Yeah, I'll give it. Donovan, at least the last 2 games, he heard us talking about him not getting to the basket. He has definitely upped that. He's got to the free throw line a little bit more. All right, when we come back, we have some sound from your head coach and from some of the Browns rookies from rookie minicamp over the weekend. Some exciting tape that emerged on social media. Are we in the midst of carving out a legitimate role for somebody who could be one of the great gadget players in the NFL? Is that what Taylen Green is? We'll get to that, plus Daryl's nightmarish downtown on Saturday. Could it have been improved? Or should Daryl have just listened to somebody who is sitting right here next to him? That's all coming up, plus Lima Likes at 7:40 here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
first starts with, doing it in your hotel room or doing it, nobody's watching, just reps. I get those reps. Then after that is doing it in Indy in practice. Then, just trying to build that habit so when you're in the game or when you're in, team periods, you're not thinking about it. It's just second nature. So it's just all about reps and getting that practice.
Am I calling him New Brown's quarterback?
He is a New Brown. He is a quarterback.
Okay, Taylen Green. We had a vicious debate when Ken was in. Ken will be back tomorrow. Daryl is in for Kenny today. Vicious debate because I said, well, if he wants to maximize his earnings in the NFL, like the move to me is to start thinking about wide receivers, start thinking, and it's unclear like how he's going to be used this year. Who is our comp, for the Saints? Taysom Hill. He was the comp. I know they're not built the same way, but that a way that he could be used that could be functional for this team.
Getting him on the field.
Yeah, and there's no doubt. Like I feel like if he can make the roster and this doesn't kill him in other areas, like on special teams or whatever, depending on the 53, use him as a total gadget player. I have no problem with that. Daryl, do you think that you're rolling your eyes? You don't think this guy can help them this season? In red zone, in different areas, different packages?
I think we're talking about quarterbacks for the sake of talking about quarterbacks. I'm not into the gadget thing. I really am not. If you're really going to evaluate your quarterback situation this year, then evaluate it, okay? Whether it's Deshaun or Fedor or somebody else, have them on the field in those critical situations, in those red zone situations, and that's what it's going to be. The results will be what they're going to be. Because you're not going to learn anything by doing the gadget stuff. Now, if you have an established starting quarterback, for me, the conversation changes completely. But you don't. You're trying to figure it out. And I think Todd Monken kind of said that, we're not going to see much of this guy because, they've got other guys. So, I just roll my eyes at all this talk about, he's going to be the gadget guy. They're going to find a way to put him on the field this year. Well, I think the way he's going to find his way to the field is if there are circumstances in which the Browns have to do what they typically have to do, and that's play 3-4 quarterbacks in the season.
Well, Todd Monken, your head coach, addressed this over the weekend too. I am shocked, Daryl. I thought you would be very open to all avenues to try to figure out how to get a weapon on the football field, especially as inept as their offense was last year. Man, people got to go on YouTube and see the faces Daryl's making. Here's Todd Monken, your head coach. Todd Monken, your head coach of the Cleveland Browns, was interviewed at the press conference. He was asked at the press conference.
And Owen turned on his pot, and here is Todd Monken.
Anybody with that kind of athleticism, I think, should he progress in certain areas of his game, I think there would be a possibility of him, whether it's short yardage, once you get in the low red zone, maybe some third down stuff that we could utilize.
So you hear him here. I mean, you're just trying to get creative, right? Now, look, in the end, he was a 6th-round pick. These guys, especially a quarterback, like what percentage of them ever make it? But they're looking at just a freak athlete. He had some of the great combine scores.
Yeah, set a bunch of quarterback records.
Yeah, like
broad jump. He's jumping 11 feet on the broad jump.
Yeah, and that's insane.
4 yards out, just give him the ball, let him jump over everyone.
I mean, that to me is you're looking for sort of some non-conventional thought for a team that has been stuck in the mud offensively for so long and looking for any way that they can get creative and try to score points.
I'm just amused that we are having a legitimate conversation about the first pick in the 6th round of the NFL draft being expected to or thought to be counted on to have some sort of impact this year. Like, I guess I should believe it because we're in Cleveland.
Well, Taysom Hill was undrafted, so and they found a way. Is he still in the NFL? I know I don't think he did much this year, but I mean he's played quarterback. He's run the ball.
As a former Saints fan, I hated the Taysom Hill package. I did.
So you probably really didn't like his contract either, since he continued to sign.
No, I don't. Yeah, because here's the thing for me with like the gimmicks and the gadgets and stuff. Like teams pick up on that, right? And when you put certain personnel on the field, you have to do it in a way in which you don't telegraph what you're doing. The Browns got lucky last year. Remember when they would line Quinshawn up, behind center?
Yeah, wildcatish.
Yeah, the wildcatish stuff, right? That caused a big brouhaha because they did it when Shedeur Sanders was starting, and
unbelievable.
And Quinshawn scored touchdowns. But by the way, because everybody forgot, Dylan Gabriel stunk to high heaven, and they did it, by the way, with him as well. They didn't do it just with Shedeur. They did it with Dylan Gabriel, but yeah, you can't talk about that because they were only trying to stick it to Shedeur and not give him those red zone opportunities. Like, that kind of stuff I don't have a problem with. And eventually, guess what happened? Teams figured out what the Browns were doing, and they started stopping it. It took 5 touchdowns to be scored for them to, get the bit. But, the gadget stuff, if you do too much of it, you tip your hand and telegraph what you're going to do.
I wish they could get a little more creative in the NFL in general.
Like, here comes Taylen Green. Oh, the Browns are going to run these 3 plays.
Well, and that's why I don't understand why it has to be like that, and that's why I feel like the league.
Do you want to give them a whole series?
Well, these coaches are so dogmatic.
Hey, it's the third quarter. The Browns are down 14.
They did that with Lamar Jackson in his rookie year. Yeah. He had certain packages that he ran. They brought him in, and eventually it was to see if he could become the starting quarterback. Joe Flacco was not very good in that offense that year, and they had to make the change, right?
He was also a first-round pick, right, Lamar?
Right.
Again, we're talking
about...
Good
for you, yeah. I mean...
We're talking about...
We're acting like this doesn't happen in the NFL.
No, I'm not acting like it doesn't happen in the NFL. I'm just trying to keep some perspective of like what this guy is.
Perspective's the key word here.
Where they picked him, okay? And I just don't want to get fans all hyped and hopped up on, the Browns are going to do all this stuff, and then we're going to get in the regular season, and we're going to be like, hey, what about all that Taylen Green stuff that everyone was talking about was going to happen in the offseason? Like, from my perspective, I have no expectation that they're going to tangibly try and use this guy, especially early in the season. Now, we get into November and December, Owen, then I can maybe see them messing around and whatever. But I think early in the season, I think Todd Monken is going to play it straight.
I always wonder why we can't see a little more creative. In the NFL, obviously, stuff comes and goes. That Wildcat thing that Miami,
Josh Cribbs did it when he was here.
Yeah. But a lot of it doesn't have staying power, to your point, Daryl. Like, a lot of it just starts as a gimmick and ends as a gimmick.
Because teams pick it up. Yeah. They figure it out.
I look at this dude's athletic ability. The only play teams haven't
figured out is the tush push. That's the only, no one has figured out how to stop the Philadelphia Eagles doing the tush push. And they've done it a billion times, right? That, to me, that's the one play that has not been...
their success rate went down this year.
It did go down, but I love the branches off of it.
And a lot of it was because the personnel that were involved in it.
Yeah, a certain center retired.
Yeah. I just know this. Like, if Terrell Pryor, I know it was a one-off season where he caught 1,000 yards. Like, you're telling me Taylen Green, if his hands are as good as people have said that they are, that have covered him, like, why couldn't
I agree with you that if he's good enough to have a gimmick package as a quarterback, he's good enough to go out and get, 4 or 5 routes that he can run, whatever 2 routes that he runs as a wide receiver.
What
he's
a
good enough to
nightmare.
On a end around reverse, maybe try to get him there and get him in some open space. It's all gimmick. There is nothing but that's what you get with a 6'6" guy that runs a 4.3.
Right.
The whole thing's a gimmick. Sometimes when you're the Cleveland Browns and things haven't worked for you for 30 years, gimmicks are what you have to turn to.
I just go back to Andrew Berry's reaction when he was after the draft. I think it was like during the draft, like they had one pick to make or something. Andrew came down and he was asked about that, receiver moving him to another position. And Andrew almost appeared offended by the question. He's like, no, he's a quarterback.
Well, if they were to bring him in, it would not just be to run the ball. You have to have the threat of the pass there, too, and he's going to throw the ball some.
You have to have
that's where
sizable's not the right word, but you have to have, I think, a little bit of an expansive repertoire to use him.
But that's where the difference between him running it and Quinshon running it. Quinshon was never going to, drop back in the deal and throw the ball, other than maybe a one-time. And I'm not expecting to see anything but a wobbling duck that maybe gets to a tight end.
Yeah, this is different.
Yeah,
this
would
is
be
an
much
added dimension.
Different. Right. Especially when you add outside receiving threats like they did in the draft. I mean, you would hope that it would all come together. But once again, yes, 6th-round pick. Very hard for it, although he's trying to unseat a 5th-round pick and a guy who hasn't played since 2020.
Right. And look, the size, like the physical tools are there. You see it. There's potential. And I'm not being dismissive of that.
No, you seemed a little dismissive at the start of the segment.
No, I just don't think that, I'm trying to temper expectations for this kid.
As a 6th-round pick.
He's a 6th-round pick. If they find a use for him, if he turns into something for them, great. My expectations are very low at this point.
Well, I tried to help Daryl out with some expectations over the weekend.
You did? When?
I think...
You expected to get home on time.
Anybody with, a brain, common sense, anybody that knows that, Cleveland gets about, outside of the football weekends, Cleveland gets about 5 crazy days a year where there's just no beating around the bush. It's going to be dreadful trying to get in or out of town. By the way, don't forget Sunday Marathon, the Cleveland Marathon. So get ready to hear the complaints about people who are trapped in the city. But you had this weekend was it Zach Bryan concert?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
At the stadium.
You had Game 3 tipping off at 3 o'clock.
At Rocket Mortgage.
The Guardians' first pitch was
delayed.
It was supposed to be 6 o'clock, but it ended up being later than that.
I think it was like at 8.
It was, people got down here at 6 because the weather hadn't rolled in yet.
And they also knew they had to get here early.
Right.
So a lot of drinking going on. Also, I don't know if Daryl, if you knew this, maybe Jeff Thomas did, that you had the Collecticon that was going on at the convention center with Soulja Boy was the lead performer. This was the big special guest and a bunch of people I've never heard of. Okay. So needless to say, like if you didn't book if you didn't get a restaurant reservation, you were in trouble because there were going to be a lot of people downtown. Daryl, I saw you go scorched earth. What was your complaint? Bring your social media post to life when all was said and done.
I was sitting in my car for an hour just trying to go 1 block to get into my parking lot. Just 1 block.
Yeah.
Took an hour.
You're in the warehouse district?
Yeah. Took an hour. And what aggravated me was, and people tried to turn it into like I'm anti-police, I don't support our law enforcement and all that. Couldn't be further for the truth.
I think you wanted more law enforcement. I think that was the deal.
No, my complaint was that the officers that were there were not helping. They had the cruiser lights on the curb. You know how they do? They park near the curb or anything. The lights are on, so that tells me, okay, people are on duty, right? They're showing that they have a presence down there, making sure everybody's safe. The valet people did a better job helping to control traffic while all the cops were on the sidewalk chilling out on the hoods of their cars. Just watching everyone sit in the parking lot.
Conducting traffic, right?
Not through the 8 intersections I saw.
I will say this. I'm trying to be as fair as humanly possible.
I took pictures. I have pictures on my phone. I almost posted them, and I was like, you know what? That's too far.
Okay. There has been, in my time and I lived in Tremont for 14 years, it seems like there's been a drastic deterioration of the numbers of guys actually out there doing the conducting of traffic. And I asked around a lot about this, and the numbers are real. Like there are so many less cops.
Yeah.
Now I thought that would
there
be
shouldn't be
part-time. I thought there would be like a call to action for part-timers. It's not like this came out of nowhere on Saturday. We all knew it was going to be a sea of mayhem.
Well, they have extra money now with the increase with the parking meters, and they're now it's 24/7, 365 that they're charging. They increased the price of the meters. Like they have funds.
But then a lot of that money went to the chairs, right? The mayor chairs.
And we're just getting started.
And then what they did around, was it Huron and Prospect with the one-way nonsense? Like, I understand people on bikes need to get around, stuff like that. The next bike I see in the Gateway District will be the first. Like they solved a problem that did not require solving.
I'm staying away from that conversation. All right, so Daryl, long story short, it was an absolute nightmare. Hopefully you guys had fun, though. Hopefully you guys were entertained.
I was down there. It was great, Daryl. I did walk past our former home of tailgates. It was crazy,
which, by the way,
foot traffic-wise. If you were trying to drive down there, I agree with you. There was no traffic flow presence.
That is my parking lot, by the way.
So
that is my parking lot, our former tailgate lot. And the valets.
Congratulations on all your success.
Yeah, no kidding, Daryl.
The valets did a better job managing the traffic than the folks that my tax dollars.
You should just abandon the car and went and had fun.
They used to put an RV in there every Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't see why Daryl couldn't get in there.
Yeah, why not? All right, when we come back, it's Lima Likes and one Browns quarterback still doing everything he can in the community. We got to give him some love because that was pretty cool. I do have some questions about how the insurance works on that. That all straight ahead, plus just an absolute disaster of a lottery. The NBA just continues to get the easy stuff wrong. Lima Likes, straight ahead on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Does Lima like?
Or does Lima no like?
Like?
Tell me likey. I'm liking it.
I like it a lot.
No like.
He doesn't like you.
I don't like you either.
You're tacky and I hate you.
Like or no like. No like or no like.
But I definitely knew what I liked, and I definitely knew what I didn't like.
All right, it wasn't the best of weekends of all time for the Guardians.
Lima no like.
Who dropped 2 out of 3 against their division rival. We did have this.
Lima like.
Hey, Bazzana, first career home run on Friday. A wild game where he scored twice, 2 RBI, the stolen bases as well, just showing all the tools in the toolkit. I know he's not batting well right now, but still some excitement there from the big-time prospect.
He's going to be fine. Be patient. Yeah. Be patient.
Now, what absolutely stunk was
Lima no like.
Saturday. What a very, very curious game as Byron Buxton. Okay, he's 2 for 5. He had a home run, 2 RBI. The problem was that was all they needed because the rest of the Twins were 0 for 30 in a 2-1 win. What'd you think, Daryl? People were not happy that they pitched to him in extras. The only guy that could do any damage against you whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the take your base. That bad call by Stephen Vogt. Should have put him on.
Yeah, that's such a tough luck loss all the way around, and that basically swung the series, right?
Well, I mean, when you're struggling, swinging the bat consistently like the Guardians are, and kind of have.
You think game time? I mean, it's midnight at that point, right? Or close to it. You know, you've got a 1:40 game the next day. You just go.
You think that factors in?
You go, well, it either ends or it doesn't right now, right? Other than kind of assuring that, because we used to see that when there wasn't the ghost runner, teams, if you got somebody on, teams would concede that run, especially as it got deeper in the game, especially knowing you have an afternoon getaway game the next day.
Well, you've used, 4 bullpen guys in that game too, and it really spoiled Bybee. Just very, very unlucky. I know he struck out 9 in that game, went 6 innings, and gave up 1 hit.
You're also down a bat because you'd already sent Bo down, but you didn't have the new guy in yet.
No, that's a good point.
Were you really down a bat?
Yes.
Figuratively, or
you send a guy out there with a bat in his hand. You're down a bat.
But if the bat is useless, does it count as an actual bat?
Guys, he hit a game-winning home run last week. What are we talking
Didn't do enough to help his cause.
I'm sorry, where is he now?
Meanwhile, you won't see him no more. Meanwhile, the
Learn
NBA
baseball, both of you.
The NBA draft lottery yesterday, it's what a third of the league was essentially tanking for, and I thought it was just a total disaster all the way around. They made you wait until the final 5 minutes to get the verdict on who was going to come out victorious, and here is the audio on ABC yesterday.
The 4th pick in the NBA draft goes to the Chicago Bulls. The 3rd pick will be made by the Memphis Grizzlies. Picking 2nd will be the Utah Jazz, and that means that the number 1 pick in the 2026 NBA draft goes to the Washington Wizards.
And that was it. Audio courtesy of ABC. So I think they butchered this just every which way you could. They want to make this such a huge show. It used to be in prime time.
Tanking for the win.
Well, okay, so this is all we're trying to do is combat the tanking, epidemic that went down in the NBA. And it was so bizarre because, my old drinking buddy's wife is handling the announcing duties. Malika Andrews, Dave McMenamin's wife, is walking around doing interviews. Everybody is so awkward because nobody knows who's taking who, but you have family there. You have guys like Vince Carter on the stage representing the Brooklyn Nets, and then you see the disappointment. You saw the Milwaukee. They didn't have Jimmy Haslam's family up there. They had the other owner and his family.
Well, that's their part of the governorship is they do lottery stuff.
They do the lottery while Jimmy Haslam is doing the Giannis is going to get traded interviews. So that was bizarre.
And Jimmy can do the funniest thing this summer and
trade Giannis to the Cavs.
Yep.
Would be something else. So the whole verdict here was that the Pacers totally messed up because they did not protect the pick that they traded for Zubats at the end of the year, who wasn't even going to be able to help them this year, was going to help them next year.
Yep.
And so they gave away the 5th overall pick in the draft. It was a total disaster. And the broadcast never explained why this was such a disaster.
Right.
But their GM, Kevin Pritchard, went to social media. He also had this to say, apologizing, a GM apologizing to the fans.
Disappointed because this is a great draft. Everybody says, well, why didn't you protect it a lot deeper? Unfortunately, we weren't able to. That was the vig for us to get Zoo. And you look at like a lot of these big trades that's out there, and you see 4 and 5 and 6 and swaps around a starter potential. And we really think Zoo is a great fit for us. And at the end of the day, like, this is what is really important. I felt like that championship team, we needed to fill that starting center. That was priority 1 because they've earned the right to go try to get a championship. That was not doable with protecting this to 8 or 9 to 10 or wherever.
And on social media, he talked about how unlucky they were. I think we need more GM apologies in the moment, in real time.
I respect it.
Can you imagine?
I saw his post on X yesterday, and I was like, you know what? If I'm a Pacer fan, sure, I'm disappointed in the results, but I respect the process and I respect the GM doing what not many GMs do, and that's saying, hey, you know what? My bad. This did not go the way I thought it would.
And the fact he just basically said, we were really unlucky. Luck has been against us. We've been a scorned city. We've had plenty of executives who have wanted to say that here in Cleveland.
If James Harden doesn't work out and the Cavs don't get to where are we going to get an apology from Kobe Altman?
Will we ever hear from Kobe Altman again? One final note.
I'm alive.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shedeur Sanders, I know he's embroiled in a quarterback competition, dare I even say a controversy. But one thing this dude does better than I think just about any player ever, and he's only been here a year with the Browns, is consistently get the great pub, and rightfully so for the stuff he does for a lot of kids in the community. Did you see the ride that he loaned out to a Bedford High School senior, Marvin Thomas? He lent him his $200,000 Maybach for prom.
Wow.
Which, of course, got me asking 1,000 questions. Like, what's the insurance situation?
Right.
What is the young student allowed to do in the vehicle? I don't know how your prom nights went.
Did he provide a driver?
Yeah. Was there a driver? Looked like he was driving. What's the situation?
Shedeur was driving?
No. Looked like I thought he was driving. Who was driving?
I don't know. All I see is them in the car, like taking pictures.
Yeah. It turns out also there's a LeBron connection.
Yes,
because
the student's mom, the date's mom was Gloria's assistant.
Yes, Gloria James's assistant. So behind the scenes, looked like there was
a little help.
Yeah, a little conversation there. Would you loan out, like, say, your $25,000 vehicle to a high school student?
Not a chance in this world.
I not only do that on the daily.
That's part of your career.
It's called being a father.
Yeah, it is being a father. But, prom is prom.
All right, let's reframe the question. Would you loan out your vehicle to a kid that is not your own for prom?
Yeah. Hey, it's a great gesture.
Absolutely. Well, here, you know what I do? I'd have to drive it. I'd be like,
there you go.
Be like a limo service,
That's a double win. Then you get not only Daryl's car, but Daryl in the flesh.
Yeah,
and he'll probably take the pictures for you.
You're right. I would.
There.
Now,
triple whammy.
It's not like one of those limos where you can close the window to see some conversation.
There's no privacy.
Yeah. Lima, I don't make that kind of money. I do not have that in my vehicle.
Now, if you're the kid,
if you're in Daryl's car, you're going to get stuck in traffic for an hour and a half. So.
And I'm gonna rage post about it.
Are you going to drive 10-2, or are you testing the limits of the Maybach?
Knowing me as a teenager, if we're in it, we're going to try it. We only get one chance, right?
Yeah. What happened if he got just hypothetically, what if you got a speeding ticket because he wanted to?
Well, who gets the points?
And Shedeur's already gotten the speeding ticket.
Well, if they just peel out of the driveway immediately, what's Shedeur gonna do? You're only gonna drive the car one time.
It's like Ferris Bueller's Day Off when he valets the car.
Yeah.
See ya. Awesome gesture. I got to say, Fedor, like scoring all sorts of points.
Good job, Fedor.
That's pretty
great.
awesome.
That's great.
And I'm sure you'll get to see. Will we hear more about it on the reality show?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
I want to know so much more about how this went down. And, like, was it returned impeccably? Did he have to fill it up with gas? If anybody knows, hey, if the kid wants to call up, I'd love to hear from him. $200,000 Maybach, pretty cool. Indeed. Would be also pretty cool for the Cavaliers to get back into the series and square things up. I left him for dead on Friday. I would love it if they rubbed that in my face. It was Chris Fedor at 9 o'clock, the Cavs beat reporter from Cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Well, whether he was ready to write the obituary for the wine and gold, if he had to shelve that at least for another week, boy, that would be nice. Cavs, it's pregame. It is on. Game 4 tonight here. Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan. XTE.
Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Get primed for the Cavs playoffs on your ride home. The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. Cleveland's Sports Radio. 92.3 The Fan.
Been with Kenny all my career, basically. Whatever he does, I'm going to trust it. Even if I don't think it's right, I'm still going to believe till the end that that's what we should have done. So whatever he does on that end, I'm with it.
That's Jared Allen talking about faith in the head coach, Kenny Atkinson. How much faith do you have in Kenny Atkinson? Game 4, how much faith do you have in the Cavs in general, being able to get in this series? I'll be honest. I left him for dead on Friday, and I had a lot of people in my mentions going, oh, Lima turned negative. Is it just he's just going to flip-flop every game? And I'm like, I really haven't flip-flopped now. Like, I think they're big trouble for the series. Even listening to Kenny Atkinson talk about where they are, he doesn't seem like he's fully bought in on just being able to even up the score, but they did what they had to do in Game 3. Give them credit. Give Max Strus. Give James Harden. I even saw people on social media saying, hey, what about Sam Merrill? Yeah, I mean, look, you need more guys to step up. I thought Evan Mobley was dominant defensively in Game 3. Did a little better in the rebounding, but still the bigs got pounded, and the offensive glass was not the friend of the wine and gold. But it's got to be a lot more of that, not just in evening up the series tonight with tip-off time. They said 8 o'clock, probably be closer to 8:10, 8:15 on Peacock and NBC. Is this an NBC game?
It's an actual NBC game.
Wow. Yes. Imagine that.
But we're running out of games for them to have.
Imagine that. It's not going to be a streaming exclusive. But this is going to be a late one tonight, and I feel like I know there have been blowouts in the playoffs. The Knicks have done a great job, being able to actually do that and put the pedal to the metal over the last week and a half. It would be nice if the Cavs would just come out and put a team away, but are they even capable of doing that? Dale Ryder in for Ken Carman. Also, Chris Fedor at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it's 2-2 after tonight. I think the Cavs do win tonight. Yes.
You have that much confidence?
Yes.
Does that change anything for your thoughts on the series, though, if they end up tying this up 2-2?
Yeah, if they tie it up 2-2, I think that there's a real possibility they finish it off.
But, they still have to play 2 in Detroit.
I get it, but they only need to win one of them.
Well, they haven't won a road game yet.
They've won 0 of them so far.
I understand that, but
0 for 5.
They won a couple road games last year in Miami.
Yeah, no, the last year, but this year they have not been able to do that.
Against a team with 9 toes. With 9 toes.
And with a player who had 9 toes.
That's exactly right. So, just in general, Daryl, like, what were the good things you saw in Game 3 that makes you think that they could actually do this and turn this around?
Better offensive flow, better shot selection. Yes, especially in that third quarter. I think they were 4 for 12 when the Pistons were able to make that run and erase that deficit. That was just a case of open looks not going down. That's basketball. That's going to happen, unfortunately, right? So, and then also, too, them capitalizing more on Piston mistakes, which they had not done in the first 2 games of the series. They had a lot of empty possessions coming off Piston turnovers in games 1 and 2, which frustrated me a little bit. Because when you're turning the ball over and you're giving up points on the scale that the Cavaliers were in the first 2 games, when you get those extra possessions yourself, you have to cash them in. You got to take advantage of them. So, and also, too, the ball movement. I think the ball had a little more life in it offensively than the first 2 games. And again, I still struggle with the Jekyll and Hyde of playing at home versus playing it on the road. Is it really the crowd noise? You know what I mean? Like, is it really the fact that maybe you don't have your plush, cushy locker room? Like, the disparity between the play, home versus road in the playoffs, baffles me. It's the same sport. The lines are the same. They'll still 10 feet from the floor, right? But, no, I think that the Cavaliers did some really good things Saturday night. But those red flags from games 1 and 2, which is why I think you're sitting here this morning saying, yeah, I'm not exactly sold. They're still there. The turnovers are still there. They're still losing the possession battle. They lost the rebounding battle, okay? James Harden had to save their backside, along with Max Strus. They're in the final 2.5, 3 minutes of the game, right? Donovan Mitchell didn't close it out, even though he had a sensational game. Evan Mobley didn't close it out, even though he played really, really well. Okay, you had to turn to the 36-year-old James Harden, who has not been good. He's the reason you're down 0-2, and you had to have that one on Saturday. So I think they win tonight, though. I do. I'm going to be
all right. Some positivity.
I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be confident. This is going to be a tight series, and it will be Game 5 that's going to determine who wins this series.
Well, they got to win a road one to have a shot to win this series, certainly. Have to win 216-474-0092. Okay, so Dean Wade has been one of the focal points. And look, if you're relying on Dean Wade, I know he's in the starting lineup and has been in the starting lineup. We wondered if there was a chance he would be removed from the starting lineup. Kenny seemed like he was throwing stuff a little bit more against the wall. Obviously, in that Game 3 win, Wade's minutes were cut to 17 after it had, been north of 20 and even had reached upwards of 28 minutes, 4 different games so far in the playoffs. So a quicker hook when it came to Dean Wade. Might you see more changes? Here was Atkinson over the weekend on the situation with the lineups.
How should I say this? It was screw the rotations. It's like we just got to feel this one out and find a rotation that find the players. 5 guys that are going to help us win. I'm usually pretty strict about staying on point with that and trying to distribute minutes. But tonight was like you got to go get this one. Got to put your best players on the floor, even if that was 15-minute stint straight. Didn't matter tonight.
And I know if you're listening to that in the radio, you're shouting, why wouldn't you always have the best players on the floor?
It sounded like that just popped in his head for the first time in his life.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's been around basketball a long time,
You're right.
The light bulb just went off. He had a eureka moment. He finally
that didn't help me have any confidence in Kenny at all.
He must have been listening to the station, because I think when I was on with you guys, I griped about Kenny not extending his star players' minutes. You have to do that in the playoffs. LeBron James, who's 41 years old, is playing between 37 and 40 minutes for the Lakers.
He's got way more minutes than Donovan Mitchell so far in the playoffs, yeah.
And I guess this is a question, they're not going to answer it honestly. But the answer that I really want is, can Donovan Mitchell only play a certain amount of minutes a game to be effective? Like, is he just a player that you cannot extend his minutes for? Because it almost feels that way. For as great of a player as he is, it feels like he just runs out of gas.
So optimization of Donovan, who we've seen having to put teams on his shoulders, both in Utah and in Cleveland. And by the end of the playoff series, and he only's ever gotten to the second round, he's been on fumes. I mean, last year he was hobbling in that Indiana series and still performed magnificently. Got to the free throw line like crazy. Still had these big shooting performances. But you're like, man, even if they pulled this out, what would Donovan have left for the rest of the playoffs? So I think they are keeping that in mind. But we're sitting there in the throes down 0-2.
You got to get there first before.
He's got to play.
You can't worry about tomorrow because you might even get to tomorrow.
So I think it goes to show, these teams this time of year, you have no super teams anymore, that you do have to monitor some and manage some unfortunately imperfect situations, like whether you're starting Max Strus, all right, then you don't have his energy off the bench. And Max has trouble covering some of these guys. Makes the great plays, though, when it counts. And he's done that throughout the playoffs. We had talked about Sam Merrill starting. No one's really saying that now, but Jalen Tyson. All right, but Jalen Tyson loses track of his guys. So he'll get up in your face and let you feel him. So you just have a bunch of decisions that are not perfect decisions to make.
You're putting Wade in there to help you with defense because 2 of your starters don't play any.
That's a big part of it, and he provides the length. 216-474-0092. Want to hear from fans. What do they do with the lineups tonight? What do you want to see based on what you've seen so far from the Cavs in the playoffs? And one outspoken national voice, is he ready to trust James Harden after all we've seen in that amazing final 2 minutes? We'll get to that and whether the fans trust James Harden here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fans.
Thomas and 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
They're putting the ball in the hands of the vet and letting the beard cook. 30 seconds left. Harden dancing on Harris. Harden step back three. Splash! James Harden!
Audio courtesy of Peacock from Saturday. James Harden delivering after, I thought it looked like after the first two games that he borderline didn't belong in the league. That's how bad it was, the opening games. And I don't even think I am overreacting. Like, he couldn't dribble, he couldn't defend, and the shots weren't falling. What place do you have in the league if that's the case and you're 36 years old?
Well, he definitely didn't look like he belonged handling the ball at the end of the game.
No. And then, I don't know what transformation happened. I also saw Donovan Mitchell seem to have some interesting, unusual recovery out of nowhere where he looked like he had the bounce back in his step. I mean, they're playing every other day. So I remember Kobe Bryant used to do everything he could, would like go overseas, come back, experiment with things. There'd be some whispers. What the heck happened there? I don't know. The Donovan and James I saw in Game 3, that gives me hope that they actually got a shot. I don't know what it was. Either way.
I know what you're trying to insinuate here, Anthony.
Either way, it was unbelievable just being there. And look, the crowd, when the ball's in James's hand at the end of the game, like we're all sitting there going, this is it. Like he's not, nobody else is moving. Nobody is coming to set a screen. This is it. It's going to be James Harden, sink or swim. And wouldn't you know, he ends up cashing in on all of those. Got trucked on one of them, by the way. The Tobias Harris one that we just played there got absolutely trucked. No foul call. Somehow made it. And it went in and they won the game. So are you having faith, Daryl? Are you having faith that if the situation repeats itself tonight at about 11:15, that is going to go through?
Listen, I'm the one sitting here saying it's going to be 2-2. 11:30 tonight. The series is going to be tied at 2.
Okay. I love it. By the way, All Cavs Conversations brought to you by Surfside Hard Iced Tea. So a lot has been talked about when it comes to James Harden. I thought he was unbelievable when they traded for him. Then the Toronto series. I thought he weathered the storm, turned the ball over way too much, but overall I think he was a net positive. And I wondered if they had the other point guard, whether they would have beaten Toronto. But then the first two games was so abysmal. I could not justify what I was watching, and I thought Kenny had to have a quick hook on James. Ends up playing 40 minutes.
Oh, well, after game 2, I think I posted or I had said, like, James should play 20 minutes in game 3. Mm-hmm. Like, you this is put up or shut up time. We're not messing around here. You know what the conversation is going to be this offseason, right? It's, besides the Donovan contract situation.
And the Kenny situation. You want to go on? I mean, whether or not Evan Mobley is going to be on the team.
And Giannis.
Power rank him at this point.
Power. You want a power rank?
Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
It is whether or not it would be beneficial for Harden to opt out so that the Cavs could sign him for 2 or 3 years.
And it seemed like anybody who covers the league and privy to the types of discussions that are had between executives, it was that he is tearing up. He's going to decline the option, the $45 or so million this year, and it was going to be a 2 for 90 something million dollars. And after the first 2 games of this series, I was like, well, they can't do that.
No,
they physically can't do that.
Well, I'll be honest with you. As I said here this morning, I think they can't do that. Like, that aspect of it hasn't changed.
Yeah, what is he going to look like? And this trade was always about the here and now. I mean, we knew that when they made the trade and you went 9 to 10 years older, that this was not for 3 years from now. This was for immediately. Why? Because Donovan is pushing for something. Help me. I need help. Not, hey, where are we at in 3 years? Because you don't know if Donovan Mitchell's going to be here.
Right, and
in 3 years.
And Donovan probably doesn't want to sit around and wait for 3 years.
No, he's not going to do that.
And it's similar to like the Evan thing. Like the Donovan trade escalated or pushed into fast forward Evan Mobley's situation with his development and the expectations for him.
The clock
as a player.
on him.
Yeah,
yes.
right? It threw everything into like fast forward mode, right? So with James Harden now, it's all the chips are to the center of the table, and they better get it done. Or else. We know what they...
And getting it done is what? I just want to be clear.
Conference finals.
Okay.
Minimum.
But some have, changed their perspective on it. Now the Knicks are looking like the team that we thought the Boston Celtics might be.
Right.
The Knicks are looking at like that. You'll be, whoever wins this series is going to be an underdog now, and I didn't think that would be the case.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks are going to sit around for...
It could be 8 days if this series goes 7.
Yeah, 8 days. So
think about how crazy that is.
But, and I think also with this Cavs team, they have struggled with the expectation thing. Like, it's not about being happy to be here. LeBron 2.0, that was a pressure cooker of 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was NBA championship or your season was a failure.
Yeah, not finals or bust.
Right.
Title or bust.
Yeah, and as unfair as that is, right? Because winning a championship is so hard to do. But with this team, it's conference finals or bust. Your season's been a failure. The Harden trade would have been a failure if they can't get past this round. And then you have to ask the serious questions about, well, what else can we do to get through the conference semifinals? Because this will be the 3rd straight year. So there's so much pressure on this team with the expectations that I think that's something that they struggle a little bit to deal with. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell to a degree, James Harden. There's a lot of pressure on James Harden. From the Cavs' perspective, you gave up a lot. You gave up 9 years, basically, right, with Darius Carter. Even though Darius is fragile as China, okay, the wind blows and he has to sit out for 3 weeks.
Oh, Daryl, come on. Save the cheap shots.
It's the reality.
Goodness.
It's unfortunate. When he's healthy, he's a dynamic player. The problem is he's never healthy. So, it has escalated all of this. And I do think that the pressure thing is real and how to handle that pressure. And can Kenny Atkinson be that coach to help them handle it? Because, quite frankly, through 3 games, I think it's fair to say J.B. Bickerstaff has gotten the best of Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah, no question. I think that has been the case. I think that's why we started this conversation talking about potential lineup changes.
Why did the Cavs fire J.B.? Because they wanted to bring in a coach to get him to the next level.
Yeah, they couldn't get over the hump.
The irony of J.B. ending the season for the guy that replaced him.
It would be worst case scenario. It's the one thing that absolutely cannot happen. And meanwhile, the other former Cavs coach 2 times over, they look like the hottest team going, certainly in the Eastern Conference and maybe the second most in the entire league. Meanwhile, on inside the NBA, Shaquille O'Neal, is he buying what we saw, that it's something that can be replicated with James Harden in the clutch?
He played well. I'm happy for him. Now the question is, can you continue to do it and you continue to go up from here? Because over the past years, we'll see 1 good game and then we'll see 4 or 5 bad games. So definitely got to win the next one at home. Definitely got to start winning on the road. He was brought there for a championship. Not to make them better or go to the Eastern Conference Finals. When that trade was made, we realized that the backcourt was super dynamic because they were already dynamic. But when you add James Harden, now we become super dynamic. So he really hasn't had a great game, but today was a good game, and hopefully this jumpstarts him to do what we expect him to do.
Audio courtesy of ESPN. Yeah, I thought it was a good game. Wasn't a great game, and I don't know, quite honestly, I don't know how many great games he's capable of. From here on out, it only gets tougher every series. It was peculiar that he looked like he had never dribbled the basketball before in that second game. And then he looked as confident as I've seen James Harden in the final minutes. Like he was throwing that ball between his legs and setting up Tobias Harris and just needs that little window. It's something you take for granted because you've seen James do it a zillion times.
Right.
But the way that he can break down a player who's in a defensive stance right in front of him just enough that he can get that shot off by just right over the fingertips of these defenders in their outstretched arms, it is amazing to see in person.
There's one trend that I've paid attention to with the Cavs in this postseason, and that's getting the ball up the backcourt. They come awfully close.
Was it a little better in Game 3? It's kind of agonizing. It really is. You remember, it's not a 10-second count anymore.
Ever since that Toronto, since the 8-second in Toronto, I've been a little shaky on that stuff.
I watched that clock intently now, and they have had.
They're borderline, right?
It's very borderline.
A couple times I thought they made it past it, but
and it almost seems like they give
it's
you.
It's like the NFL's play clock, right?
They give you that extra count.
They give you 9.
If you're moving across the timeline, they give you that extra. But if you're behind the timeline,
especially if there's no pressure, that's the thing. It'd be one thing if you're getting pressured and the other team's making it a little more difficult. Like the Donovan example, they were doing the run and jump.
You shouldn't need three exchanges in the backcourt.
It's incredible.
Just
that
get the ball over the timeline, get into your offense.
Compare that to the other teams in the league that are sprinting off your makes.
Yes.
How many times have the Cavs given up buckets after makes? Normally it's like, all right, we scored, retreat, get your defense set, and at least, provide some roadblocks for the opposing offense. Instead, we score it. Harden's on the ground or Donovan's on the ground and a beautiful floater, and they got numbers the other way. And it's like, we don't do that to anybody. When did the Cavs, except when we went with the Schroeder, Max Strus, Sam Merrill. Okay, those are the lineups that can actually do that. The problem with those lineups are you can only play them so many minutes.
Right.
You're not going to get away with it. That's not in your DNA. The other teams, their starters can do it. And they're always looking to push.
But after every Piston make, I find myself just watching the shot clock as the Cavs are bringing the ball up, and I'm just waiting for 8-second calls.
I know.
Because they seem to cut it close every single time. And again, they have 3 and 4 exchanges in the backcourt, and I don't get it. Just get the ball in, run it over the timeline, and go.
What did you think, Daryl, of Evan Mobley's performance in that game? Because I think people look at the box score and they say, all right, well, he scored 13 points. Had 2 blocks, whatever. I thought he was elite defensively
I thought
that game.
I thought he did a good job, really.
Did the broadcast, you were at home, did the broadcast talk about that?
No.
Because like with Wemby, it's obvious, right? You don't even need to talk about it. You watch Wemby, who got tossed out of yesterday's game, and we're waiting to see if the NBA is going to suspend him as Minnesota is up.
He should be suspended for that.
Yeah, some Meta World Peace gets suspended for like 5 games.
7 games.
So you got 7
games, yeah. So I just know, like, when Wemby's doing it, it is different. It's different. It is just different. He is deterring everything.
He'd just be the same height as regular people, then it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it's just very...
It'd be in the gut.
It's unfair. Yeah. It's unfair right now.
I thought Evan did a great job rerouting the Pistons in the paint.
Yes.
I really did. I thought that's what they really need from him. I know we talk a lot about the rim protection, the rebounding, and all that. He had 8 rebounds, blocked a couple shots. But I think the difference was he made the Pistons move around him instead of him having to move himself to, chase them.
You didn't see him get bodied into the rim like we had seen earlier in the series, like we had seen throughout. He was quite honestly the entire Toronto series.
Saturday, he was much, much better than the first 2 games in this series defensively.
And look, there were some times he got matched up with Cade Cunningham, and I got to give the Cavs credit in this accord. Like, we were worried defensively. Like, this Cavs defense that in years past was one of the elite defenses in the NBA. Why hadn't they been able to hearken back to that at all? And I think you've seen shades. Like, they have made life really hard on Cade. Now, with the game on the line, like, Cade came right down and scored. And Max Strus is going to just have his work cut out for him. Maybe you need to send him some different looks. But I think they have challenged him throughout this series. And don't count this out. One factor I'm looking that could sway the series potentially to the Cavs. We've talked so much about Donovan Mitchell and James Harden wearing down. What about Cade Cunningham wearing down? His usage is astronomical. The ball's in his hands the entire game, and he has not been an efficient scorer. He still has made a huge difference for them, and he's why they're up 2-1. But can he wear down, and can Tobias Harris start to weigh down? 216-474-0092. When we come back, Hey, Browns had their rookie minicamp over the weekend, and there is some real legitimate excitement about their wide receivers. But what are some reasonable expectations for those wide receivers who we'll hear from next? Plus Chris Fedor at 9 o'clock, Sports Radio 92.3, The Fan.
Sheiban Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
Count down the hours until tip-off with us, Baskin and Phelps. Weekday mornings starting at 10. Cleveland's Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
Super excited, especially like Deshaun Watson's home, who I've watched for the past years, and then with Fedor, a young guy who is eager to just be better and every day shows up with a great attitude. So, I'm very excited to work with those two.
That's Denzel Boston, 39th overall pick and the second wide receiver taken for the Browns over rookie minicamp over the weekend. Anthony Lima, Daryl Ryder is in for Kenny, who will make his triumphant return tomorrow. Meanwhile, as always, Daryl's segment's brought to you by Sheiban Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. When you start to hear these wide receivers, the coach talk about these wide receivers, you made a significant investment thanks to whatever seemingly blind spot that they had for how many years in the draft for wide receivers, taking them early. They took two of them, one at 24th overall with Concepcion and then Boston at 39th. Now, the only question I had for these wide receivers going into the season is, do they have a chance to be a number one? Do one of these guys have a legitimate chance to be a number one? Have they solved that issue? Since we know now, after all these years in the league and seeing him in Cleveland uniform, Jerry Judy is not a number one wide receiver in the NFL.
Well, I think that someone's going to just have to play itself out. One of the frustrations with the Judy situation, and it was just the reality of it, he's not a number one wide receiver. He's a good player, okay? But he was being asked to do something that just isn't. He's not a number one. And that's not shade at Jerry. But here he had to be the number one. And I think that, and myself included, a lot of even my criticism of him has been through that lens. Similar to Dillon Gabriel last year when they're giving that kid first-team reps. He's a third-round pick, but he's getting the first reps of practices and that. So, okay, fine. I'm looking through the lens of a starting quarterback. And so I was heavily critical of Dillon Gabriel last year. So, I think the number one wide receiver thing, you just have to, let it play out.
Well, and what did we think?
And use this offseason to figure it out.
And before the draft, we were honed in on three guys. Let's be honest.
Right.
Carnell Tate.
Yep.
Obviously, Lemon and Tyson. We were honed in on those guys as all being potential number ones.
Right, because they would walk in from day one as the number one. Now,
and they didn't get any of those three guys.
Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion, I don't think either one of them walked through the door with the expectation or the label. Maybe that's the better way to put it. The label of being the number one wide receiver in the group, right? If I had to, I would lean more towards Casey Concepcion being the number one wide receiver.
I'm kind of with you.
And Jerry Judy being the 2, and then Denzel Boston being the 3. But that's right now. That's before seeing the rookies and the veterans on the field together. Maybe when we get through veteran minicamp in early mid-June there, I'll have a stronger feeling or stronger conviction about that. But yeah, as I sit here right now, I'd probably say Casey Concepcion.
You're talking options, right? Not necessarily, because when you say Boston the 3, it sounds like slot only type of thing.
No. That's not what I mean. I don't mean he's a strict slot guy, because you can move him around too. Again, Casey as well. Versatility is the theme of this whole offseason, whether it was offensive line, all the linemen that they brought in through free agency and the draft. All those guys are versatile. They can play multiple positions and play them well. The wide receivers, I think they're all kind of interchangeable. They are not, hey, he's the X, he's the Y. You can move all those guys around, which is great. That's great for the Browns. And I know there's a segment of people that are very cynical right now about, oh, great, the Browns got a bunch of number 2 wide receivers. Awesome, wonderful. What do we do with that? You know what? You can do a lot with that. Even if that ultimately plays out that way, right? You don't have a Randy Moss in this group. All right. You can do a lot with, and then you throw in Harold Fannin into that mix.
Oh, yeah. We've honestly kind of lost in the shuffle of how much we've been talking about wide receiver.
Throw in Dylan Sampson into that mix. Now you have 5 receiving targets Okay? And that doesn't even go deeper into the wide receiver room of what, they have, and they got to figure out with, guys like Ced Tillman or whatever, can they make something of him or not, right? So I'm actually very excited. I watched all the videos that like Mary Kay and Dan Lobby and everyone was posting from the rookie minicamp, watching the videos of Boston Concepcion out there.
Of course, he dropped one. Concepcion dropped one. Everybody saw it and said, whoop. Here we go. Typical. Browns took a guy who can't catch the ball. And I'm like,
no.
I don't even know how you put any stock into anything you see.
I know.
This time of year.
I know. I'm legitimately excited about what this wide receiver room can be. And that I can't remember the last time those words ever came out of my mouth. Owen, I don't know. You can police this. I don't think I've ever said I was excited about a Browns wide receiver room before.
Probably not since, 2019?
Landry and Odell.
Yeah.
Landry and Odell.
Yeah, we were all excited about that. Absolutely.
Because I made a couple on that one, too. Like, listen, when I'm wrong, I admit I'm wrong. Like, I remember when they traded for Odell.
Everyone was wrong on that.
I know.
Who didn't think that OBJ was going to come in and, still had 1,000 yards that first year. They both did.
I think I had written something at the time that I thought that, like, trading for Odell made the Browns Super Bowl contenders or something. Boy, that's an old takes exposed right there. But no, this is the first time.
Guess what? He missed it.
This is the first time in a very, very long time where, like, I am really excited about the Browns receiver. Even with Jerry Judy. Like, I am excited to see what he's going to be able to do now that all the attention and all the focus isn't on him.
Yeah, can he just be, instead of having to depend upon him to, get over 1,000 yards and be so productive and score touchdowns, like that this hasn't been him. I mean, last year was just, and again, we know, all three quarterbacks. We were the offensive line. All the same stuff you'd say about Shedor, you'd say about Dylan Gabriel. Because the guy, like, you see Jerry Judy, he gets off the line of scrimmage and gets open.
Right.
A lot. Like a lot. Jerry Judy gets open a ton.
Yes.
That is what you want your wide receivers to do. But his productivity for being the number one target was like all-time bad last year.
And I think that part of that was the quarterback situation. I think part of that was just his own personal frustrations with everything.
And didn't he say at the end of the year he was dealing with something pretty significant?
Right, and hopefully, and that gave me pause because, like, I was tearing him a new one every week, and it's like, these are human beings, and hopefully everything in the personal life off the field, like, was okay. Like, I would feel horrible if I'm ripping the guy for blowing plays on Sunday, and, he's got something really, really serious off the field that was going on, but, that you're paid to do a job, and last year Jerry Judy did not do the job, but I'm really intrigued to see what he's going to be able to do offensively with this with the two additions of Concepcion and Boston to that receiver room. And again, you throw in Harold Fannin. I think if they can even just get competent quarterback play, I think this could be a dynamic offense. I really do. Like Todd Monken,
the Browns with a dynamic offense.
Todd Monken is not a system guy. Todd Monken is hey, these are the guys I got to work with. Let's put something together that they can have success with. Might not be pretty at times, but that's just the way she goes. And I like the more I think about and analyze the whole big picture situation with this football team right now, I'm kind of like, actually, because I wasn't crazy about hiring Todd Monken, but now I'm like, okay, I think this might work.
And I think people like seeing the videos of him, the way he talks to this team, a little refreshing compared to the staleness that I think was fairly evident at the end of the Kevin Stefanski run.
Pave the way for comebacks.
All right, well, it is a comeback opportunity for the Cavaliers tonight. Game 4, obviously. I think we all can understand the significance of this game tonight, a must-win. So significant that Chris Fedor is actually going to show up at 9 o'clock.
Nice.
6 minutes from now. Does he have the obituary written on the Cavs season? Does he think they can turn it around and rely reasonably on James Harden for the second straight game? That's all straight ahead on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Anthony Lima, 4Q.
for all today's headline segments. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Sign up to be a part of the Fan Club. Download the free Odyssey app and follow 92.3 The Fan to get all of the best audio and best stories sent straight to your inbox. 92.3thefan.com.
We have Chris Fedor in a matter of moments. Still time to bail, though, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it from Chris Fedor, Cleveland.com. Excellent job. Got a chance to talk to him over the weekend, Saturday at that Cavs game, where I asked him, I said, hey, how's the obituary
You guys
coming?
live like a block away from each other?
He won't see me. He's in the nicer part of Bay. Enter the word food, FOOD at 923thefan.com before 10 a.m. Your chance to win a 4-pack of amazing fun packs. A 4-pack of fun packs. That's incredible. To the Berea National Rib Cook-Off and Beer Fest Memorial Day weekend, Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds. It is that time of the year, which includes Ford admission tickets, rib samplers, bottles of water. Get details at BereaRib.com. It's all brought to you by Berea National Rib Cook-Off and Beer Fest. Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. We have Daryl Ryder is in for Ken Carman today, which of course means Chris Fedor is on the hotline. Weishart Right, we make it right. Call Kyle Wright hotline. Fedor, I talked to you on Saturday about whether you had in your briefcase the obituary ready to unveil for the masses the Now They Tell Us story on the Cleveland Cavaliers, and yet James Harden, Max Strus, and, host of others made sure that you'd have to put that back in the briefcase, at least for a few days. What did you make of that, Chris Fedor?
Well, that's what the first 3 games have come down to, guys. The Cavs have put themselves in a situation to be in a clutch time situation in the first 3 games against Detroit, and in 2 of them, they did not come through, and then on Saturday, they did. And when you're in these playoff environments and you're playing against these really, really talented teams, you're going to have to find ways to execute down the stretch games. You're going to have to find ways to come up with quality offense against these elite defensive teams. And then going into Saturday, the Cavs had more losses in clutch time than any team in the playoffs, and the Pistons had more wins in clutch time than any team in the playoffs. But that reversed for 1 game because James Harden did what he was brought here to do. And in the situation that the Cavs were in games 1 and game 2, James Harden was right there, had the ball in his hands. What he was brought here for didn't come through late in Detroit. Donovan Mitchell, what he was brought here for, why he is on this roster, didn't come through late. The Cavs figured it out in game 3. And if they're in that situation again, we'll see what they learned and what other things they can go back to. But that's what the 3 games have been decided by, those moments down the stretch of the game. And that's why James Harden's here. That's why the Cavs have invested in him. That's why the Cavs believe in him. And I thought it was really, really interesting, despite his failures in game 2, that Kenny Atkinson was willing to go back to him, put the ball back in his hands, and he made the plays that he needed to make.
Yeah, that's right where I was headed, Chris. Does the final 3 minutes or so where Harden was just exceptional, has the faith been restored with him? Can we all breathe easy with the ball in his hands, in the clutch, and kind of forget about, the first 8 games of the playoffs for him?
I don't think so. I think you have to do it over and over and over again, and that's what greatness requires. That's what his role and his responsibility for this team requires. But I do think that there was something that happened throughout the course of the game that kind of allowed him to be a little bit better in that situation. And the Cavs kind of reconfigured their offense in game 3 so that not as much was put on his shoulders. I think there's an understanding that this version of James Harden, this is not an in-prime superstar that you just run everything throughout the course of a playoff battle. You have to manage him a little bit throughout the course of the game. And in game 3, the Cavs reconfigured the offense. They got the ball to Donovan Mitchell more. They played Dennis Schroeder more. Jared Allen was more involved offensively. So throughout the course of the game, not as much was demanded of James. He didn't have to do too much before that situation arose. In fact, in the first two games of the series against Detroit, James Harden had a usage rate right around 28. In game 3, his usage rate was down to 19. So when you got into that situation in the late game, he could exploit his matchup a little bit better because he wasn't as physically or mentally worn down because of everything he was required to do before those moments. And I think that was an understanding that the Cavs had. I think that was a recognition that the Cavs had of we have to find a way to not make him do as much throughout the course of this 48-minute game. We can't overburden him because that's not who he is at this stage of his career. That's not what he's capable of at this stage of his career. We have to give Donovan Mitchell that kind of treatment. We have to demand that much more from Donovan Mitchell because he's the in-prime superstar. And then I just felt like James was a little bit more fresh. I think he wasn't as worn down. I think the turnovers, that was a big part of it. I think the pace that the Cavs played with in Game 3, I think that was a big part of it too. So if they can continue to manage it that kind of way, I think it's going to be beneficial for everybody, including James. But does that erase everything that happened at times against Toronto? No. Does it erase everything that happened in the first two games against Detroit? No. But it breathed life into the series, and it kept the season alive, and that's all that matters at this point in time.
Chris Fedor joined us on the hotline. Donovan Mitchell scored 35 points in that game after in the first two games I highlighted a bunch of plays where I thought, man, Donovan, is he worried about the hammy? Watch him as he sprints back on this possession. Watch him as he comes up lame on this possession, not elevating around the rim, playing into Detroit's hands. They're not very concerned about him finishing right at the rim. And then he does that. Then he looks as spry as I've seen him in like a month. So did he speak at all to what transpired between Game 2 and Game 3? Because this is a chance they have to actually come back and win the series, is if Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris can actually wear down, but Donovan Mitchell gets stronger each game, which I didn't figure in part of the calculus, that you might have a shift in this series and things that are taking place.
I think Donovan's a little bit more comfortable in this series than he was against Toronto. Just stylistically, the way that the Pistons play him is very, very different than what Toronto did. And a lot of the players talked about that coming into this series, guys, and a lot of the coaches talked about that coming into this series as well. You know, Detroit's got this reputation defensively, and they're a very, very good defensive team. And Asar Thompson was a Defensive Player of the Year finalist for a reason. But stylistically, it's a little bit more straightforward. It's Detroit saying, hey, like, we do what we do, and we think we do it really, really well. But we don't need to send a bunch of traps, right? We don't need to do all these unique wrinkles the way that the Toronto Raptors did. And I think that caught Donovan off guard. I think it caught the Cavs offense off guard. It took in the rhythm at times throughout the course of that Toronto series. And that kind of attention, you know, Donovan hasn't seen that over and over and over again. When it comes to the Pistons, you know, he just has to win his matchup at various points. And sometimes it's going to be difficult because sometimes it's going to be Asar Thompson. Sometimes it's going to be Cade Cunningham. But it's more predictable what the Pistons are going to do defensively. There's a better understanding of what the Pistons are going to do defensively. And he's just going to have to win his matchup, and he's going to have to create separation and knock down shots. He's going to have opportunities at times to drive to the basket, but that means he's going to have to play through contact and things along those lines. So I understand that a lot of people are looking at Donovan and when he doesn't have good games or he's not driving to the basket over and over and over again, and they're asking questions about, okay, is it his hamstring? Is it his groin? Is it his ankle? And things along those lines. I think in the first round, it was more the Raptors' defense and trying to do everything that they could to bother him and keep him from being the Donovan Mitchell that he's capable of being. And I think at times, Donovan looked at that scenario in the series against the Raptors and saying, I can make an impact other kinds of ways. Like, my team can benefit from the attention that I'm commanding from the Raptors, and that might be beneficial for somebody like Jared Allen or somebody like Evan Mobley or somebody like James Harden, that I'm occupying a certain kind of defender. And that's what he did at the end of Game 3. He occupied Asar Thompson so that James Harden didn't have to deal with Asar Thompson. And James Harden had a more favorable matchup against either Tobias Harris or Duncan Robinson. So there's still value in what Donovan does and the attention that he commands from a specific team. And I think it's just he's trying to pick his spots in the best way that he possibly can, and he's trying to do what it is that he thinks is best for this offense in certain situations. And sometimes I think he understands that that's scoring and taking advantage of those matchups, putting his head down and going to the basket, or trying to get his shot off and create separation that kind of way. And I think sometimes he thinks it's stand in the corner, draw attention away from the other guys on this team, and allow them to make plays and make shots. Because this isn't tennis. This isn't golf. This isn't a one-man thing. This is basketball. And it's what he thinks in the moment. And he's not always going to be right about this, but it's what he thinks in the moment is best for this offense as a whole and this team as a whole.
Chris, after the game, Kenny Atkinson said that, he had to throw the rotational minutes thing out. He likes to have a pattern. And I got to ask you, and I mean this with all due respect, did like a light bulb go off? Did he just like magically figure out that's what you're supposed to do in the playoffs? Did it really take their season to be pushed to the brink for him to realize, yeah, you got to play your star players longer than you would in the regular season?
Well, they were down 0-2, so they had to win that game. Can't go down 0-3. So you got to start doing a little bit different when it comes to managing minutes and rotations and stuff. And look, like, every coach has a belief. Every coach has a certain way of doing things. Tom Thibodeau got criticized when he was with the New York Knicks for never using his bench and playing his guys 45 to 48 minutes. Kenny Atkinson believes in depth. Kenny Atkinson has celebrated this team's depth since the offseason. Kenny Atkinson came from the Golden State Warriors, where it was about strength in numbers, where it was about playing 10 guys in his playoff rotation and things along those lines. So every coach is going to have a different level of comfort. But I think what Kenny realized is that there are certain minutes throughout the course of a game that could change the outcome. And I think if you go back to Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against Detroit, that lineup that he used at the beginning of the fourth quarter, you can't do those kinds of things in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. And I think that was very, very costly from a Cavs perspective. So I think it's, you go back, you watch it, you reevaluate some things. You consider making other kinds of stylistic and rotational changes and things along those lines. But as I said, after Game 1, after Game 2, there's no rule that says you have to continue to stick with your regular season rotation. There's no rule that says you have to continue to play these guys regular season minutes. That's the value of being in the playoffs, that if you have to play Cade Cunningham like the Detroit Pistons 42 minutes and all 12 of the fourth quarter, then that's what you do, and that's creating an advantage for your basketball team. So we'll see how Kenny wants to manage this. I do think there's also a big picture thing in play of this is a 7-game series, and every game is every other day, and we have to find a way, the best way that we possibly can, to make it so that these guys don't wear down physically and mentally by the end of this particular series. But when you're down 0-2 and you're at home and you can't afford to go down 0-3, then that means you play Donovan Mitchell all 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. That means you play a majority of your guys as much as you possibly can. That means you don't play Keon Ellis. That means you don't play Thomas Bryant. But I don't think it's going to be in every situation, like this is what I'm going to do, and I'm determined to do it. I think he needs to be flexible and adaptable. I think he needs to read the game situation. I think he needs to read the moment and try to make the right decisions based on all of the information in front of him. In the first 2 games of the series, I think we can all admit that he didn't make the right decisions when it came to his lineups and his rotations. And those things were costly. They played part in the Cavs going down 0-2. In Game 3, we can all say that he did make the right decisions with his lineups, his minute management, all that kind of stuff, and it led to a win. So he needs to be better than what he was in the first 2 games of the series.
Chris, what's the right decision for the starting lineup tonight?
I still think there's advantages to continuing to go with Dean Wade, but and the familiarity and the chemistry that group has. But I think it, and I would go that way because there's a reason why he's on this roster. There's a benefit to the things that he brings to the table, but I think you just have to continue to have a short leash on him. And if that means you have to go to Jalen Tyson to guard Cade Cunningham, or if that means you have to go to Max Strus, I think you can do that. I think the value of having playable depth is that you can start one way and you can finish a different way, or you can start one way and you can continue to try some of these other options that you have on this roster and find what it is that you're missing and what it is that you need in that moment. But I do think that there is a value to continuity, consistency, the defense that Dean brings, the size that he brings, the ability to wear on Cade Cunningham early in the game so that maybe he's worn down by the end of the game. So I wouldn't change anything after winning your first game in this particular series.
All right, Chris. I hope to do this again with the season still going, with the season still on. I don't want that
That's
obituary.
Not up to me. That's up to the Cavs, right?
It is. I know. They get mad at us. I just, I'd like to see them play a few more games. That's all. And tonight's going to go a long way towards deciding that. As always, you can follow him, Cleveland.com, and The Plain Dealer. Chris, excellent job as always. Thank you.
You got it, guys. Thanks for having me. See you.
All right, Chris Fedor on the Wise Heart Right, Make It Right, Call Cal Right hotline, as Dan Gilbert will be there tonight. Seen Mike Brown already advance to the Eastern Cup. Did he fire Mike Brown twice?
Yes, he did.
Okay, JB Bickerstaff up 2-1. And what? Somewhere David Blatt is having success overseas. Somewhere. He is. He might be retired, but might be coaching intramurals. I don't know. But this has got to be especially cruel for Dan watching this unfold. There's no way they can allow Detroit to go up 3-1 with him sitting courtside and JB Bickerstaff riding those refs for the better part of 3 hours.
It's a $400 million cruel joke.
Yeah. It's pretty expensive roster.
Be a pretty expensive second and out.
All right. When we come back, some interesting remarks on the rotation. Chris Fedor says coaches got to be a lot more flexible when it comes to that. Plus, is Donovan Mitchell potentially getting stronger as the series moves on? I didn't see that coming. That's straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
think it's going to be in every situation, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm determined to do it. I think he needs to be flexible and adaptable. I think he needs to read the game situation. I think he needs to read the moment and try to make the right decisions based on all of the information in front of him. In the first 2 games of the series, I think we can all admit that he didn't make the right decisions when it came to his lineups and his rotation.
That was Chris Fedor moments ago on the lack of flexibility that we have seen from your head coach. Will that change? I mean, it's only been 3 games. If we think this series is going to go 7, you still have more games in front of you than behind you. So still time to work on things, but is that a significant reason why you're here in the first place? Do you feel like Kenny needs to get more creative? We'll talk about the starting lineup here in a second, but from what you've seen, do you think he has the players, on the bench that could come in and spark something?
Yeah, I mean, Schroeder's been good. Strus has been good. Tyson has been good in spurts. I think you do have to be careful with him. Sam Merrill has been good in spurts. I mean, look at the minutes distribution from Game 3, right? 26 and a half minutes for Strus, just over 22 minutes for Schroeder. And then Tyson and Merrill were in the 14-minute range, right? Dean Wade, and there's a lot of conversation, hey, what do you do with that 5th starter? Well, you didn't really play Dean Wade's starters minutes.
No. 18 minutes?
No, 16:45. Less than 17 minutes. So that's why I'm not as up in arms over the Dean Wade starting thing as I think a lot of folks are. It'd be different if you played Dean Wade for the Max Strus minutes. Strus was out there for, as I said, over 26 minutes, right? Then I think that there's a conversation to be had. But you didn't play Dean Wade starter minutes. You played him bench minutes as a starter. So I believe that the Cavaliers have enough talent. They're the better basketball team in my view. They're the more talented team in my view. I think they got the better coach in my view.
See, it's funny when they're down 2-1. What did people say? Or 2-0. What were people saying?
I understand. I still maintain that. But the better coach, the better talent, the better team doesn't always win. So just because I believe that the Cavaliers are better doesn't mean they're going to win the series. Now, I do believe they're winning tonight. I do believe that will help them come back and win this series. Unfortunately, they may need a Game 7 to do it.
Man, I'll stop you just on one little thing, which it could become a big thing. I have been blown away by the job J.B. Bickerstaff is doing with Detroit. Now, in Game 3, just this odd bugaboo, he sent Thompson to the bench,
well, which
was a little bizarre to me because we have no answers for that dude.
Well, when I said better coach, I meant just overall. I'm not talking about coach in the series.
Yeah.
I mean, like JB has had the upper hand in my.
Well, and the
I
reason
agree.
I'm not just playing the results here because that's easy to do. Oh, which teams won? Okay, better coaching. What I'm saying is, it has seemed to me in the series
he has less talent.
Right. I think he does, and his less talented team, they know what they're supposed to do. They know what they can't do, almost more importantly. We've got guys doing things that we're very uncomfortable. Their shooters shoot, their dribblers dribble, their screeners screen, their rebounders rebound.
Well, the Cavs have had too many situations where they look confused. Like they just look kind of scatterbrained.
Yes.
Out there.
Yes, 100%.
The Pistons have not. And I think that is what has led to all the, 175-plus turnovers the Cavaliers have had this postseason. Quick math on that, I believe that's 17.5 per game average.
Yeah, it's insane. Now, the last 2 games, they've kind of even up the score on turnovers, so Detroit is turning the ball over.
Hey, only 15 on Saturday.
Well, what I am hoping for, and I get the sarcasm, Daryl, what I am hoping for is we've talked so much about the Cavs wearing down in series because we've got older players, veterans, whatever. But is there a chance Detroit can wear down just because Cade Cunningham's usage is so astronomical? The ball is in his hands so often. Tobias Harris, it's been a throwback series for him like it's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back, his first series ever was on Detroit versus the LeBron Cavs way back when. So Tobias Harris has been around a long time, and the ball is in his hands.
Well,
LeBron's
not on these Cavs, so Tobias Harris is not the least bit intimidated.
No, he's not. He's been exceptional. I'm also waiting for him to regress to the mean. I have some numbers courtesy of our analytics guru, Cleve TA, who says Cade Cunningham's matchup stats this series. There's 58 possessions against Wade, 36 possessions against Jalen Tyson, 35 possessions against Strus. Strus has been by far the worst against Cunningham, which highlights the two incredible plays of him guarding the inbounds. One where Cunningham threw it off the backboard. The other that he snatched in midair and took it in for a huge layup with 2 minutes left in that game. But the other series, if he doesn't get a turnover, Strus is cooked. Like Cunningham is taking him wherever he wants. He's scoring on him with ease. So basically Tyson on points per possession and true shooting is by far been the best defender on Cunningham in this series one-on-one. Of course, we know Cavs send help.
Yeah.
So you got to monitor that as well from a spacing standpoint. But does that mean Tyson, would you elevate him into the starting lineup?
No, I wouldn't. I would do the same thing that Kenny did on Saturday.
Wade with a quick hook?
Wade with a quick hook. Again, you start him, and then you play him bench minutes.
And he's not going to close unless you need defense for offense. Cavs had timeouts, and I do not understand. They had James Harden out there for a crucial possession on defense. Like, what are you doing? Why are you not subbing offense for defense? That was another very, very mind-boggling situation I saw in that game. And look, this Kenny does seem to be playing it, like looking at the big picture. But you know what? So too was Joe Mazzulla. Throwing out lineups in the course of that series, and even some of the comments where he's like, well, I got to think of the big picture.
Right.
Yeah, big picture's done. Your team is done. Your team got eliminated in the first round.
Yeah, your big picture is 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
Yeah. So Kenny does not have that at his disposal because it will be like permanent Cancun if they don't get past this series. He's losing his job. He's done. Like, I don't think there's any question.
Well, as I said yesterday, the Cavs avoided Armageddon. They postponed Armageddon for a couple of days.
Day of execution is what we said.
Right, okay? Because if they lose tonight, you know what tomorrow's show is going to be like, right?
Well, will it be one of those situations where the ball is in the Beard's hands in the final moments? Chris Fedor, has the faith been restored in the Beard?
I don't think so. I think you have to do it over and over and over again, and that's what greatness requires. That's what his role and his responsibility for this team requires. But I do think that there was something that happened throughout the course of the game that kind of allowed him to be a little bit better in that situation. And the Cavs kind of reconfigured their offense in Game 3 so that not as much was put on his shoulders.
So he mentioned the usage, and I had it right in front of me, and it's like Fedor knew, because he read off the usage. So James Harden, at the start of the playoffs against Toronto, the usage was in the 30s, which that's old school Harden was like 37, 38, a heliocentric Harden. But with the Cavs, it had been, the governor had been on. Like, he was moving the ball. Well, the playoffs are obviously a different animal. Well, the first game of the series, the usage for James was 33. Game 2, it was 23. Game 3, it was 20. It's coming down. Maybe that is why Kenny thought he could play him 40 minutes. Because if you optimize, overall, his every second on the court, then maybe you can get away. I still don't think James Harden should be playing 40 minutes.
Well,
at 36 years old, year 17.
I think that was a sink or swim decision by Kenny. Hey, we made that trade. The reason we made him was for these moments. So we're going to use them. And we'll just live with the results. Luckily on Saturday, the results were good.
All right, will the results be good tonight? Donovan Mitchell has gotten better each and every game in this series. Is there a way that he could actually become the best player in this series and take over that role from Cade Cunningham? Final segment of the show, 216-474-0092. How you feeling? I know it's early. How you feeling? This could be a late one tonight, so if you're with us now and you're going to be staying up for that game, it's going to be a long day. Pace yourself. Cavs, can they even up the score tonight here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan?
Brad Evans here to help you beat the...
shrunk a whole lot. Look on the bright side. Now you have a suit you can give to a child.
This is a job for sponsored jobs. This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
This is the only place to trust for Cavs talk. Immediately after every playoff game, Cleveland's Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
Missed a moment in your show? Use the Rewind feature on the Odyssey app, powered by Integrated Restoration, your local experts in water, fire, and storm disaster restoration.
It's going to be a late one tonight for the Cavaliers. I had a quick talk with the boss.
Me too.
Well, was yours as positive as mine was?
No, it'd be a late night for me too.
Okay.
No resignation. So.
Yeah. I'll just relay what Keith said. Keith Britton, our boss. He's like, does Daryl want to live in a big city or not? Like a good city, a thriving city or not? Saturday was a thriving city. You had Cavs playoffs with the stakes as high as they were. We had Guardians. We had a concert. We had the Pokemon Con or whatever it was.
Yes, I want to live in a thriving city that knows how to function like a thriving city.
It seemed like it was functioning like a thriving city.
It most certainly did not function Saturday night.
Oh, this just popped in my head because as I told you off the air, I had quite the time at the concert Saturday night. Some of it I don't remember. There was one instance, though, walking back up that bridge going home. There was a father, he's probably my age. He had come down to get his daughter and her friend who they'd bought 18th birthday tickets for.
Oh, goodness.
And they were lost and they couldn't find their way out. So him and his son came down. He hopped out. He went and found them and tried to get back to their vehicle, which was just mobile and on the move because you had to stay on the move. If there was no stopping. Once you stopped, you were there for a while.
Yeah,
but
toast.
It was that was a lot of Saturday night, I believe, and it was a hell of a time. It was really fun. I know, Daryl, it didn't work out so great for you, but if you were part of it, I think it's one of those nights that when you talk about it, especially like seeing some news reports of people from out of town, they were really wowed by what was going on because of the baseball game and the basketball game and all that led up to people that came into town for that big concert.
There was some dude on X, I forget the handle, that he came specifically in, I think, from Philadelphia. And he came in
John Calavita.
No.
Yeah, he's right here. Talk to him.
He came. It was like a $500 trip, and he was documenting.
Oh, I saw this.
The train ride, the various restaurants he went to, the tickets for like the concert, the tickets for the Guardians game, the tickets for the Cavs game. Like he, I guess, did all three. He did the triple header, and he did it for less than $500.
Which
Good for him.
Which is pretty incredible, yeah, considering what it costs to go to those games.
I did it for about the same, and I live local.
No, you had $500 worth of beers.
That's probably true.
In general. I can't imagine.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. I'm impressed Owen made it today.
Yeah, heck yeah.
If the show was yesterday, I would not have been here.
We would have been in peril. All right, well, the good news is hopefully there will be more opportunities to have big nights in downtown Cleveland, but the way to do that is to get a victory tonight. And we heard from Chris Fedor last segment with us about the Donovan Mitchell factor. And is there a glimmer of hope? Is Donovan, his numbers are getting better and better in this series.
You know, he just has to win his matchup at various points. And sometimes it's going to be difficult because sometimes it's going to be a Star Thompson. Sometimes it's going to be Cade Cunningham. But it's more predictable what the Pistons are going to do defensively. There's a better understanding of what the Pistons are going to do defensively. And he's just going to have to win his matchup, and he's going to have to create separation and knock down shots. He's going to have opportunities at times to drive to the basket, but that means he's going to have to play through contact and things along those lines.
He looked to me, especially for the first three quarters, he was so spry. He was actually getting all the way to the basket. It seemed like he had the Pistons really confused. They thought they had him kind of bottled in those first two games. And I know he still had a high scoring marking game too, but it was inefficient. And still his three ball is not really been as functional as we know it can be. But the difference was, I know he took 8 threes, but he did not settle like I had seen him in parts of the Toronto series. And I just wonder if, you got to remember, the superstars this time of year, they do find their ways, and they're more adept at finding answers. And I just wondered if physically he was not going to be up to the task. I saw a very different Donovan Mitchell in Game 3, and that gave me hope.
Well, Kenny Atkinson mentioned about trying to wear each other out, right? That this is going to be a war of attrition between these two teams. Who's going to give in first, most, and obviously last, right? And the three-point shooting, not just for Donovan Mitchell, Anthony, but for the entire Cavalier team, has kind of fallen off a cliff.
The open misses have been well documented.
These are not, and that's what happened to them in the third quarter, and why the Pistons were able to erase that 17-point lead that the Cavs had built up, because they're missing open looks. They're not forcing threes. They are wide open looks. It's real hard for me to criticize them shooting, other than okay, the three ball's not falling, so let's take it to the basket. That's one thing I wish they would do more of. Instead, they kind of just stick to chucking the threes. I really wish that they would get a feel for the game. Okay, three ball's not going tonight. Let's get a little more aggressive in the paint and get into the basket. Maybe get the mid-range game going a little bit.
I know we got to go. End of the show. Basket and Phelps coming up next. 30 seconds left. Cavs have the ball. It's a one-possession game. Who do you want the ball in the hands of tonight? We just saw.
Are they up or down?
The Beard. You think it matters?
Yes. Are they winning or losing?
This was with them winning when Cade Cunningham trying to match basket for basket. So you think it matters?
Yes. Are they winning or losing in this scenario?
I'll say they're losing.
They're losing.
Who do you want the ball in the hands of? Game on the line tonight.
Donovan. It's got to be Donovan Mitchell.
Owen?
Yeah, Daryl's right. It's supposed to be Donovan Mitchell. I want it in James Harden's hands if they're losing.
Whoa!
He's the vet.
John, are you listening back there?
Daryl's right. It should be Donovan, but it's going to be James.
And what did you tell us when we acquired James Harden?
That if James Harden is your number one option, that's not a good thing.
All right, save the audio. I'm going Donovan Mitchell.
It was a good thing on Saturday.
I'm going Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, the one good thing on Saturday. Daryl brought up 30 bad things about Saturday.
He was so good, they kept it out of his hands at the end of the game.
And Daryl waited in traffic for an hour and 15 minutes right outside of his place.
You should have just left your car there and walked upstairs.
I know. I would have abandoned the vehicle and said it got stolen.
I just got it.
And then hoped it got stolen.
Yeah.
And then told him he had a bunch of stuff in there. Look, I learned from the best. Father's Day is next month. Hey, thanks for listening. Thank you, Chris Fedor, for joining the show.
Still got all of his converted.
Daryl Ryder, appreciate your help. Ken Carman is back tomorrow. Thank you, John. Thank you, Owen. Basket of Helps up next. Go Cavs! Game 4. Try to even up the series tonight. We'll see you.
I'd like to give a shout out to the Zach Gelb Show. I know that they are always on the go. They travel, they read, they sing, and they dance. Always take life as a risk for it.